All right. Happy summer, everyone. Everybody's excited. I call this meeting of the Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum of members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. The time is 6:01. Welcome. Our first item is our invocation, which will be led by Datron Williams, and then our Pledge of Allegiance by Tiffany Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in a word of prayer if you so choose. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity once again to gather and conduct the business of our children. Thank you for this honor of service to you. We thank you for your continuous protection over our families and this great school district during this summer break. Now we ask that you grant us the daily strength to continue to do your will and grant us wise discernment in our decisions. Let us decrease in ourselves so that you may increase within us. Lastly, grant us grace and mercy in all that we do. Amen.
Amen. Please join us for the honor of the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Texas flag? Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right. Moving on to item 2A, which is our special recognition. First one, we have a couple today, and our first one is going to be Destination Imagination Global Champions, DI Veterans, Vogel Intermediate.
Yes, sir.
That's
cheer,
right.
that's fine. So we are thankful tonight to have some students that were willing to join us here during the summer. We have this great opportunity at board meetings to recognize students for their great accomplishments, and we know that our students have many strengths, and it's a blessing for us in the school district that we offer opportunities for students to work within their strengths and to really excel and to very high levels. We see student athletes come forward. We see great musicians and students that are talented in the arts. We've seen students come in for their academic success on PSAT, all types of different things. Tonight we're going to celebrate two opportunities that we lean into very heavily as a school district in Destination Imagination and also Science Fair. And it's important that we do that because we allow these students to find a home and allow them to showcase their unbelievable talent to the world. And so we'll start with our Destination Imagination Global Champions tonight, and to make that introduction is Ms. Chris Reichelt, who is the czar of all things DI and Conroe ISD, and does an amazing job. So, Ms. Reichelt.
Thank you, Dr. Knoll. President Hubert, Board of Trustees, Dr. Knoll. Destination Imagination is a global educational nonprofit competition dedicated to inspiring the next generation of innovators, leaders, and creative problem solvers. DI provides unique educational experiences across 7 project-based challenge-type challenges. We have technical, scientific, engineering, fine arts, improv, service learning, and early learning. The DI challenge experience is 100% student-driven. The academic challenges are designed to teach the creative process. Each season, there are new and engaging team challenges that encourage students to explore their passions, discover their unique talents and abilities, and to learn new skills that are offered. Teams also participate in instant challenges, which are quick, creative, and critical thinking experiences that build teamwork and problem-solving abilities. During the 2023-2024 school year, Conroe ISD had 146 teams participate in Destination Imagination. Congratulations to the Martha team from Knox Junior High and the DI veterans from Vogel Intermediate, who both won first place at Global's finals in May. truly a monumental feat at its highest level. Before I go any further, I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank the board for your continued support in Destination Imagination. This program enables students who would not normally perform on an athletic field, but gave them a chance to shine in the academic arena. Tonight, I'm proud to introduce to you the members of the Global Champions teams. When I say your names, I will introduce you, and you will line up to the right of me, and you will receive your certificate. And we're going to start with the Vogel team. So that's right over here. Team manager is Sherry Cusano. Sherry. And her team includes Garris Bailey, Haley Bahuzla, Haley, I tried, Alex Cusano, Chris Massa, who is not with us today, Kenzie Miller, Abby Privet, and Sean Shukla, who is not with us today. The next team I would like to introduce you to is the Martha team from Knox Junior High. Their team manager is Tina Patel, and I must say that this is their second year for showing up here and presenting to you. So they're a two-time winner in the global competition. Is Ben here? Okay. Our first teammate is Benjamin Zhao, who is not here today. Ava Checkman. Hayden Patel. Karishma Pargi. Maddie Dillard. Rishab Yadav, I'm sorry. President Hubert, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Knoll, I present you the champions of the world.
On behalf of the board, I want to say congratulations to your accomplishments and all that you've done. I know that you're not training, like she mentioned, you're not athletically training, but you're academically training for this kind of teamwork and these competitions. And it's such a blessing that y'all are working together and gaining these awards and receiving these accomplishments for our district. So on behalf of the board, I just want to say thank you and keep up the good work.
And then we'll come over here and do a picture of the DI veterans all together. So Ms. Dana, do you want to join us here? We'll do this picture on the side first. Yeah. Yes. Parents, I'll take a picture and then I will move out of your way if you want to get pictures. There we go. Very nice. All right, parents, it's all on you if you want to get a picture. Did you get it? Okay, ready? DI veterans. One more. Very nice. Congratulations. Oh, wait. DI veterans parents. I'm so sorry. Congratulations.
It was almost like yesterday. I will. Congratulations. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Congratulations again. You're welcome, sir.
And all you do, congratulations. That's a lot of hard work you had there. Congratulations. Look at all your blinged out. Congratulations to you. All the best. Congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work. Congratulations
Really cool.
to you.
We did it too
Very
years and
excited.
years ago. I love it.
Very excited.
Ms. Reichelt?
Congratulations to you. Thank you for your commitment to this amazing team. God bless
sir.
you. Congratulations to you. Very exciting. Congratulations.
Oh, you bet.
Congratulations to you and all your hard work. Congratulations. Well done today, sir.
I understand. I know it's a lot.
Sure, Dr. Knoll.
Get the glasses. I've asked Ms. Reichelt just to share with us the progression, just so that you can hear, like, how do we even get to globals? Where are globals? And what does that look like? If you'll just kind of share with us that progression of how do we go from just our 146 teams to...
Okay, so we couldn't do this without you, first and foremost. If we did not have the support of Conroe ISD, we would not be standing here today. Second, we start with regionals. Regionals is an all-encompassing, anybody who wants to participate can participate. That's where our 146 teams, and some clappers back there, that's where our 146 teams, even our younger kids, kindergarten through second grade, participate for a ribbon, but they don't compete to go on. So in order to move on, we had 24 teams move on to the state level. That is incredible. They have to score within the top 24, well, the top of their challenge that they choose. When we go to state, we have over 600 teams there. It is incredible. And so you have to be in the first and second place to be able to go on to globals. We had 24 teams there. We moved on 15 teams to globals. We packed our bags, we got our dogs checked with our suitcases, and we headed out to Kansas City, where we had worlds. We had Australia there, North Korea, South Korea. We had teams from India. We had teams from Norway, Switzerland. They're from all over the world. And these two teams won first place in world. It was an incredible feat, and we're very proud of them. We stand before you every year with DI winners, and we're so proud of the program that we've built, and we're proud of the support that you give us, because it is true. They may not excel on the sport team, but they do excel in the arena of academics, and we're proud to offer that to them. So thank you.
You bet.
Any questions? No?
That's great. That's great. All right, moving on to item C, which is our Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair winners. This is from the Academy of Science and Technology. Dr. Noel.
So once again, we get a chance to celebrate amazing accomplishment for our students. And what's unique about both of these is it's a big deal when we're here to celebrate state championships. But for both our DI students and now the science fair students, these are students that not only won at the state level, but then went on to international level and won as well. So to make our introduction tonight, we have Dr. Deborah Creel, our headmaster of the Academy of Science and Technology.
Thank you so much, Dr. Knoll, Board of Trustees, President Hubert. Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to recognize Justin Wong and Victoria O. They're both rising seniors in the Academy of Science and Technology at College Park High School. Just a bit about how tough it is to get to the International Science and Engineering Fair. Our students not only compete first at our science fair held here in Conroe ISD, that's put on in conjunction with the Education for Tomorrow Alliance, which we are so grateful for that partnership and that continued partnership. Students then, if they do well at our district level science fair, they go on to the Science and Engineering Fair of Houston. In order to earn a bid to the International Science and Engineering Fair, not only do they have to win first place in their division, all the first place divisions then compete against each other for a certain number of bids. So from the Science and Engineering Fair of Houston, only 9 students and projects go on to the International Science Fair. Students can also, if they do not earn a bid at the regional science fair, they can also enter bid at the Texas State Science and Engineering Fair, which is where Victoria and Justin earned their bid this year. So they were competing against the entire state of Texas, which then sent 6 more students on to the International Science Fair. So when they get there, it truly is international. The students are competing against delegations from Saudi Arabia, from just every country you could even imagine in the world, and they're the top students from everywhere. It's an incredible feat, and they did very, very well. This dynamic duo performed exceptionally well, and they've been such good representatives, not only for the Academy of Science and Technology, but also College Park High School. Believe it or not, this was their first year working as partners, so I wanted to get Justin and Victoria to come on up. What they've done this summer, they've relaxed, because every rising senior relaxes by doing college applications. But they're also working on a patent for their project. They won at International Science Fair. Not only did they win first place in environmental engineering, they also won second place overall at the International Science and Engineering Fair, which is known as the Gordon Moore Award for Innovation. With that award came a $50,000 prize for these two. So they did an exceptional job. And they can put that toward their college education or by investing in their own project and working. So not only have they've relaxed this summer, they've both traveled a little bit and visited family, but they're also looking forward, thank goodness, of working together next year when they will be seniors. They're looking forward to an exciting year. I know that they wanted to say a couple of words. We wanted to most definitely give a shout out to Miss Larissa Coffey, who was their sponsor this past year from the Academy of Science and Technology. But this really, and they'll kind of talk about this, goes all the way back. They said they really wanted to thank Miss Caldwell at Mitchell Intermediate back in 6th grade, because that's when they started with Science Fair. So I wanted to turn it over to Justin and Victoria for just a second.
So I would just like to say a few words that I don't think are said enough, which is to thank you to Conroe ISD. Both of us have been here since elementary school, and this definitely would not have been possible without the education for years and years. And what I will say is that even though we were the ones who flew to LA and competed and all that stuff, I want this win to not only go towards us, but also to Conroe ISD as a whole, because of how impactful you guys have been for our education. So thank you very much.
Hey, would you all like to share, I know I asked you in the hallway, but would you like to share the title of your project, and then you're going to have to explain it to us after. Just like you did me. Talk slow, try to help out. Yes.
Yeah, so our project was about using ultrasound to filter out microplastics from our water. So microplastics are super tiny pieces of plastics which are less than 5 millimeters long, and they can get into our water, our food, and we could be ingesting them without even knowing it. So we obviously realized that this was a huge problem which affected everyone, so we built a device that was able to produce ultrasonic waves, which is able to push microplastics back and hold them back and block them, but the water is able to get through, so we're left with clean water at the end.
Very cool. Come right here. We're good. We're good. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Wow. I just want to say a few words. This is what it's about, what you guys have just accomplished. Hearing about your project it's incredible what your minds can think of a situation, and then figure out a solution, and then actually build something and study it to fix a problem. It's incredible. And then to add to that, the humility and sincerity that you just shared with how you got here, the people that you thought about, and thanking those that helped you along the way. It's incredible to have you guys part of our district sharing who you are and what you've done and what you've accomplished with the world coming from our district. It's such an honor to be up here and to get to know you guys. Truly, what you are doing is what stars are made of and what we as a district love to promote. So on behalf of the board and everybody here, thank you. Thank you for applying yourself. Thank you for what you do. It's awesome. Congratulations.
Huge for like the carcinogens getting out of the water. I'm so excited for you guys. I'm excited to follow along the journey. Thank you so much. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited to follow the journey. That's awesome. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you. Incredible.
We're also very thankful that y'all were juniors last year, so we get one more year with you. That's awesome.
What's next?
Dr. Knoll, always pushing, right? That's awesome. So cool, so cool. All right, on to, we're not done with our special recognitions, Dr. Knoll. We have our ambassador awards for our transportation department and getting kids here and there and the project or into everywhere they go. So,
yeah, amazing team members throughout this entire school district, and it takes everybody for these celebrations to happen. It takes the entire team functioning at the highest level. Tonight we get an opportunity to celebrate with two groups of folks that make a huge difference in the lives of our students and staff every single day. So here to introduce our transportation department will be Mr. McCord.
all right.
President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll, good evening. I'm here to tell you tonight that we are in the best place that we have been in transportation in many, many, many years. And I will tell you, I'm excited about it. And really, it largely comes down to our people. And there's some great people. And when you think about transportation, the first thing I think you think about are the drivers. But there are an army of people that are behind drivers that are working to put them in the seat to be able to successfully and safely drive kids to and from school every day. And so we'll recognize people from a number of different areas, but just thinking about the drivers, I was thinking about this as I was coming in today. Think about a job and think about the challenge. You're driving in one of the fastest growing communities in the United States. You get up sometime in the 4 o'clock hour, arrive sometime early in the 5 o'clock hour. You drive a route till around 9:30. You go home, you come back around 1:30, and then you drive, you get done between 5:30 and 6:15. You go home and you do it all again the next day. It's a challenge, it's a lot, and our district would not function without these great people, both the ones driving the buses and supporting and making the buses routes work. So the arrow is pointing up at a great trajectory regarding morale, professionalism, customer service, and equipment. And even though we're here to talk about people, I want to talk about equipment just for a short version. So we have 2 new centers which are now open, one in Caney Creek and one in Conroe. It's made a huge difference, moved out of those trailers to be able to have real centers and real bays, and it's a big thing. So last year, we were able to receive 31 new school buses. And when some people drive down the road, they play the license plate game, especially if you're of my age. I've talked to Mrs. Wagaman before, but I play the game when I see a bus, I look at the first 2 digits on the bumper, because that tells you what year the bus is made. But we had 31 new buses. We had grants last year for those buses that gave us $439,000 towards the school bus. A school bus costs right around $150,000 a piece for a new school bus. But what I'm really excited about as far as equipment goes is we have 82 new buses that are scheduled to arrive between November and May. Of those 82 buses, and it's too early to spike the football yet, but 30 of those are part of a grant that, if awarded, is part of the heavy-duty vehicle grant. If awarded, it's a big if, would refund us right under $3 million. So that is something we're excited about. And just improving the fleet makes it better for the driver, the kids, and by association, the parents. So there's a lot going on there. But like I said, it's about people, and it starts with Juan Melendez. And Juan is a fantastic director of transportation. We are lucky to have him. He brings experience in transportation, but I believe it really helps too. He had experience for years as a building principal. So he gets to look at it from both sides. So I want you to know right now, we are in a full sprint post-hurricane, gearing up for the start of the school year. And so we're working on routing based on board-approved guidelines, stops, and a call center that would make Jerry Lewis proud, the late Jerry Lewis. So we're working on that. So we're excited, but no, that's enough of me. Without further ado, from Crane, Texas, I introduce Juan Melendez. So.
I'll give anybody $1 if you know where Crane, Texas is. Okay. So, President Hubert and members of the board, Dr. Noel, it is my extreme honor to present our Ambassador Award recipients this year. I tell my people all the time, we're the hardest working, toughest, roughest team of transportation individuals that we have around not only the greater Houston area, but I would rate us up against any other transportation system in the state of Texas. So I work with a great bunch of people, but these individuals definitely stood out this year. We'll start off at the Conroe Transportation Center. First and foremost, we have Miss Jamie Geraldo. Jamie. Jamie drives bus 1021 for us. And Jamie did a great service to one of our second grade students, really looking out for his safety and well-being. He got scared as he was being dropped off. He saw some scary construction workers and didn't want to get off the bus. And Jamie took him back to the campus and made sure that we called mom and dad, and mom came and picked him up, and he felt a lot better about transportation. So good job, Jamie. Thank you. All right. Next, we have Miss Talisha Price. Talisha and I don't have all the time in the world to sing Miss Price's praises, but she is awesome. Talisha is a driver, first and foremost. She drives 1028. She's a dedicated transportation employee and has been with us for 9 years. She excels in various roles and plays does a tremendous assistance not only in field trip management and operations. She demonstrates great work ethic by willing to take extra hours, assisting during high demand events, training new employees. Talisha's experience in the field trip software is particularly valuable, and her commitment and versatility make her a very deserving individual of this award. Way to go, Talisha. We're very proud of you. Okay, next we have Stephanie Malone. Stephanie actually works out of our Conroe Transportation Center, but she is a Caney Creek router, okay? So Stephanie's been with us for 10 years. She's excelled in both her roles, as first as a driver, and then she moved on to a router. She goes beyond expectations by working long hours, assisting colleagues, taking special projects, attending professional development courses, and being a positive role model. Stephanie's efficiency with routing software and her willingness to help others makes her a valuable asset to the Conroe ISD Transportation Department. Way to go, Stephanie. All right, next we have Miss Stacy Broadway. Stacy is a Caney Creek driver. She drives bus 2043. She's been a dedicated member of our Conroe ISD family since 2021. She shows strong commitment to student safety and her role in student transportation. She actively addresses safety issues, collaborates with supervisors and administrators, and engages with students to ensure their well-being. Ms. Stacy's vigilance was evident when she safeguarded a first grade student whose parent was unexpectedly absent at the bus stop, deciding that it was unsafe due to nearby construction. We keep having issues with construction workers. She returned the student to the campus, where the parent later expressed gratitude for her care and vigilance. Great job, Stacy. All right, next we go down to the Oak Ridge Transportation Center, and we have Miss Heather Jones and Miss Caroline Culpepper. Heather and Caroline are both the driver and the monitor for bus 4217. No Heather? Caroline? No Heather? No Heather. Okay, all right. So Caroline will be representing both her and Ms. Jones. In the fall of 2023, at a congested intersection, bus 4217 noticed a firearm on the ground that looked real. They promptly alerted dispatch and law enforcement. Heather and Caroline meticulously adhered to safety procedures to protect the students and ensure the proper handling of the weapon. Thank God the weapon was fake, but great job. Okay, and we have 3 other recipients that were not able to be here tonight. I'll go ahead and recognize each of them. The first one is Caesar Mora. He is a driver of 4062 out of our Oak Ridge Transportation Center. And then we have Miss Stella Pearson. Miss Stella Pearson is a driver out of the Woodlands Transportation Center. She drives bus 3023. And then last but not least, we have Mr. John Canary. He actually has left the district, but we wanted to recognize him for a job well done.
Thank you for that leadership, and thank you for what you do. You guys are truly unsung heroes. You are what we are about at CISD. You are the folks that get our kids where they're supposed to be, and not get them there, but get them there safely and with love. So you guys keep us rolling, keep us going, literally. And we want to thank you, and always continue to know that we support you, we love you, and we appreciate everything that you do for us. So thank you for the transportation department. Thank you for your leadership. And just thank you for being a part of CISD. Really appreciate you.
That's a bus line. Thank you so much. How are you doing? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
30 miles south of Odessa.
Okay, good. We know now.
Whole country.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah. If you've ever read the book Friday Night Lights, it actually talks about crane.
Really? Okay. Did you play football?
I did. Yes,
Okay,
you have
see?
to. West Texas.
Yeah, you have to.
It's a right of way.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much for all those words and for what you're doing for us and keeping these kids rolling, as you so eloquently put. Moving on to item E, which is another ambassador award, is the police department.
Once again, another department that plays such a key role in not only keeping us safe every day, but just helping everybody to feel comfortable every day. And beyond that, they're just great role models for all of our students and our community. And that starts at the top with our chief, and so we're so thankful to Chief Blakelock and his work, but he is here tonight to recognize some of the great members of his team. Chief?
Thank you, President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll. I can't say it better than Juan did, but I'm honored. One, that I get to work with the people that I get to work with every single day. The passion and the care they bring to safety and security on our campuses to protect our students, our staff, and our visitors. There's not a better job out there. And I love what I do every day, and I love the people that I work with. And there's so many deserving people. The ones that I want to recognize tonight, I want to start with Prevention Control Monitor Douglas Stalinsky. He couldn't be here tonight. When I called him and told him about this, he had just hooked up the trailer to the truck, and they were headed to West Texas for vacation.
All right.
And he said he needed a little bit of rest so that he'd be ready to come back this next school year and do what he does.
Good.
Mr. Stalinsky has worked as a prevention control monitor for Conroe ISD since 2021. He's assigned to York Junior High, but he also assists with traffic at, and security at Cox and Snyder. Mr. Stalinsky has an excellent working relationship with the staff and families that he works with each day, and he goes above and beyond to ensure their safety. As just one of the many examples that I'm aware of, he was at Snyder one day during heavy downpours and high wind with lightning in the area. His supervisor had said, "Hey, you don't need to be getting out in this. This is really dangerous." He took it upon himself to get drenched in the rain to ensure that the traffic could move and the students could get into the building safely. Whether he's ensuring the doors are locked and closed and locked, greeting visitors, or directing traffic in the rain, he always goes the extra mile for school safety. He is truly an asset to Conroe ISD. The next person I'd like to recognize is Police Officer David Branson. There's a story about how we stole him from another agency, but we'll talk about that another night. Officer David Branson has worked with Conroe ISD since 2021. He holds an advanced peace officer license and is a police instructor, and recently was certified as an alert active shooter instructor for our department. He came to us after working as a police officer in other districts for 4 years. Officer Branson has been successful wherever he has been assigned. He works very hard to build relationships with parents, staff, and students, and embodies the community policing model. Near the end of this last school year, Officer Branson was assigned to Washington High School, where we have not had an officer in the past. He's already integrated himself as part of the campus family. He gets to know his students and even participated in a staff versus students basketball game at the end of the year. He was later recognized by the campus principal for his dedication and hard work. He has all of the skills, the personality, and the mentality of what we look for in a Conroe ISD police officer, and we're really glad he is here. The next person I want to recognize could not be here tonight either. When I called him, he was back in his old hometown, San Diego, telling his old buddies about how great our district and our police department are. So, little recruiting effort out of state. It's Police Officer Dean Beckwith. Officer Beckwith has been with Conroe ISD Police Department since 2022. He has another 6 years police experience out of state prior to coming here. I got to meet with him. He actually flew to Texas and met with me when he was looking to relocate and sit down and talk about the district and the department. When he left, he said, this is the kind of place I really want to come work. And what I didn't tell him was I was so impressed with him and his philosophy of policing and what we do every day that we worked really hard to help him get the training and the classes to get his license in Texas as a peace officer, and recruited him as fast as we could. He's assigned to Pete Junior High School. He works very hard each day as part of the campus team to ensure campus safety. And he just recently was certified as a police instructor and also as an alert active shooter trainer. I am very happy that he chose us and that we chose him.
Awesome.
My next person is Dispatcher Melissa Holmes Louder. Melissa has worked for Conroe ISD since 2015. She began as a prevention control monitor and transferred to police dispatch in 2018. She holds her basic instructor certificate and a master telecommunicator license. Every day I walk by dispatch and I stick my head in the window and I say, "Get to work." And every day she replies, "No." But I always walk away smiling because I know that no one works harder than her to fulfill our mission. Melissa is there anytime, day or night, to help get the job done. She believes in maintaining a strong relationship with our community, and she takes part in almost every one of our community outreach programs and signs up for every committee that has a task. Most importantly, she has patience and empathy for those who might call 911 for help. She cares about our community and about people, and it shows every single time she answers the phone. And the last person I want to recognize tonight is Crossing Guard Miranda West. Miss West has worked at Powell Elementary and Mitchell Intermediate as a crossing guard since 2020. She crosses over 200 students between those two assignments each day. But she doesn't just cross them safely. She greets them by name and gets to know them and their parents. Her positive attitude and caring personality puts a smile on each kid's face as they start their school day. Her dedication to the families of Conroe ISD does not end there, as she can often be seen at her school's events and activities where she continues to support the students. Miranda West is not just an amazing crossing guard, she is a valued member of the Powell and Mitchell school communities and an excellent ambassador for Conroe ISD. And my last note is, I believe I saw her mom in the audience. It was just, she is also a crossing guard for Conroe ISD, and we recognized her 2 years ago up here.
Oh, very cool.
Thank you.
Obviously, policing is more than just driving a car and security. Policing is community, and you provide that to our district and our county every single day. I know those crossing guard ladies will throw themselves on a car if you get near their kids when they are walking across the street. I know our officers will pull together food, clothing, anything that they know their kids and their school needs. They do it every single year. They make kids feel safe. They make kids feel special. And that's all 88 of them, not just our special man tonight, but every single one of our officers. And then, of course, the back office. The ladies and men that keep everything rolling. People don't realize our district runs 24/7. Every day, they're checking on kids, looking at situations, even when school is out. And so we owe you a debt of gratitude for providing safety for, again, our community, our district, and our students. So thank you.
Through traffic out there to stop for the bus, so every day I made sure. Traffic stop for the ninth grade bus, even though that wasn't my name.
That's why she's
I know, no, never. Never.
All right. Love our recognition time period, our special recognition. It's always great to recognize those that go above and beyond. We have so many in so many different areas. So our students, our administrators, our teachers, everybody. It's just awesome making this district be so successful. So thank you so much to all those who contribute to that. Moving on to our excuse me, our item 3, which is our citizen participation. During this portion of the meeting, patrons who have signed up in advance may address the board in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, and Board Policy BED. For comments regarding an issue on tonight's posted agenda, the board will defer its discussion of that issue until the item is reached on the agenda. For comments related to an issue that is not on the board's posted agenda, the board cannot deliberate or make decisions related to that issue. We ask that speakers address their comments to the board and not the audience. If any speaker's comments is regarding a complaint, the board directs you to its policies regarding complaints, which can be found on the district's website. Please be aware that if your purpose in addressing the board is to seek a remedy for your complaint, the board cannot discuss or respond to your concern until you have met the requirements of the appropriate district policy. Each speaker will be given 2.5 minutes to present their comments to the board. Screens around the room will display the speaker's time. When the countdown timer reaches 0, the next speaker will be called. Ms. Godfrey, will you please call our first person?
Gwen Milliken.
Hello, President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll. I would like to speak on behalf of the drill process for the district and just confirm, clarify how that is handled as far as compliance, if that's something that is tracked from an electronic perspective or viewable for parents and families to see as far as the schedule is concerned, and if it's across the board or just campus specific.
So let me clarify, we're here seeking information and to bring awareness. Attempts to obtain this information from our particular campus has not been met, and so we're forced to escalate that to the next steps and bring this to your attention so that we can be sure that our school is compliant with the requirements of the state for meeting the lockdown drills compliance. And that's where we have not been able to get the information from the administrators at our campus.
Yeah, what campus was it?
This is Vogel Elementary, middle, intermediate.
Okay.
We'll have someone reach out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ginger Russell. Robert Holden.
You have my name. Watching last month's meeting would actually hurt to hear those racist rants, which also displayed ignorance. First, no normal person would check or even care about the race of the author, and they also seem ignorant of the fact that whites are the minority. You have a long history of failure. You push DEI, or maybe more correctly, die. So the next time you take a flight, watch the plane to ensure some part of it doesn't fall off. And of course, I'm sure you enjoyed being out of power 2 to 3 times longer than it should have been. And Saturday, we witnessed someone charged with protecting a person by putting her 5'4" body between the 6'3" president and the shooter. Doesn't work. While another protector cowered in a self-huddle on the floor not far away. Then we watched another protector repeatedly struggle to try to get her pistol back into her holster. We watched you promote confusion of kids, young kids, whose prefrontal cortex is not yet developed about their gender. And studies show that those who are put in situations like you do, they're 14 times more likely to commit suicide when their prefrontal cortex shows up age 18 to 22. So you're promoting suicide among kids with this transgender stuff. Then you showed your ignorance by ignoring the basic fact that sex is determined at conception and discovered at birth or ultrasound, with more than 30 trillion cells in the body, every one of them containing the sex of the person. Not one is changed by anything that you have supported. You cannot change sex even of one single cell. In the 80s, while working in Europe, I learned that corporations required Americans with degrees from U.S. universities to take a test to determine if they had learned anything. Now American corporations are starting to do the same. Maybe this is part of why this ISD is near the lowest performing in the entire world, and I've seen no increase in student knowledge during the decades I've followed you. So those on the board who are the communist supporters, return to Soviet Bolshevik masters. And as you and some parents promoting porn in the schools to, I guess, help kids identify a new career choice, that is not the career choice for most of this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexander Harris.
At the last meeting, I watched the discussion about our book policy. And I even sent it back to you. I took a clip and sent it back to you. I'm amazed at some of the comments that were made. And you all made a big thing about this book, The Color Purple, which is on the AP list. Let me read an excerpt to you. Dear God, I mean, she's being raped by her father, and he threatens her that he will kill her if he told anyone. So the only person she can talk to is God. So she says, I'm 14 years old, and she writes a letter to God. And here's what it says. He never says a kind word to me. And he put his thing against my hip and sort of wiggled it around, and then he grabbed my titties. Then he pushed his thing inside my pussy. Now that hurt. I cried. He started to choke me, saying, you better shut up and get used to it, otherwise I'm going to kill you. And he makes her pregnant. And he takes the baby away. And this is the second time he's done that. And the poor kid, 14-year-old, says, I've got breasts full of milk running down myself. Can you imagine that? Putting this hand in the book of a minor to process this and study this? Really? Ms. Chase, some of your comments, you said, you're too sensitive, you said. I'm sorry. If this is not sensitive to you, I don't know what to say. But because to most of us, it is highly sensitive. And Ms. Wagaman, you seem lost. You voted for this policy. This policy was put in place to be explicit. That's all. We didn't borrow from anybody else. You took the old policy, you're right, President Hubert. We just enhanced it to include what sexually explicit means. And the school is doing the right thing. They see something like this, out it goes. And you, Mr. Williams, you're lost. You need help. Thank you.
Lindsay Dawson.
Good evening. Last month, Trustee Nelson proposed adopting a resolution against the changes to Title IX, which would have forced our schools to accommodate biological men in female bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms, and potentially on women's sports teams. As usual, the majority voted to do nothing, with Trustees Chase and Williams berating Trustee Nelson for half an hour, accusing her of furthering her own personal ideas and political agendas. Trustee Chase called Nelson's attempt to protect our girls at school inappropriate and virtue signaling, all because she, and a lot of other people, mind you, want to keep boys out of girls' private spaces and potentially sports teams. What an evil and sinister agenda. No, what's inappropriate, Trustee Chase, is that you are more concerned with getting sued than you are with ensuring that girls have privacy in their own locker rooms. Does that even bother you at all? Doesn't seem like it. If you're not on this board to protect our children, then why are you on it? Trustee Chase condescendingly stated, "We follow the law here." Well, that's not entirely true, is it? Does HB 3908 ring a bell? This critical bill from 2023 regarding fentanyl prevention training has yet to be implemented in direct violation of state law. So in case you weren't aware, a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction on July 11th prohibiting the Department of Education from implementing this new Title IX rule starting on August 1st. This injunction applies to the whole state of Texas. So here's the answer I'm sure you all have been so anxiously awaiting to do your jobs. Do not implement or enforce this new rule. I suggest you lay down your personal agendas and political agendas, which you have, by the way, and follow your own advice, follow the law. It's sad that it takes an official legal order for you to do the right thing, but I guess that's where we're at in our society. Thanks.
Thank you.
Paul Croson. Paul Krausen. Audrey Warner.
Wish you a speedy recovery, for whatever it is.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm hoping once again to convince all of you that the sexualization of our children is an evil process. There is no need for our children to be subjected to lies about gender, normalize the act of rape, see incest as something we should introduce them to, or allow into their innocent hearts any other perverted act that a twisted mind can come up with. It is unfathomable for me to understand how keeping materials, whether instructional, library, classroom, safe and appropriate, is considered book banning. That is just more hateful rhetoric, fueling a fire that will only lead to destruction. You can sit on this board and feel strong and confident, calling people like me a racist, or trying to intimidate me through name-calling and shaming, but it doesn't work. I'm asking that if you decide to make any changes to the material policy, that you add more teeth. Make it harder for this trash to be introduced to our children, and much more difficult for removed materials that were removed by process followed by the policies be added back in. There are plenty of people in this room that want their children sexualized at an early age. That's fine. Do it on your own time and in your own dime. Leave the innocents in my family alone. Be proactive. Protect our children. It's nothing to back away from. In fact, it'll make you a hero. And in this day and age, we are desperately needing heroes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Nini.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Charlie Kirk recently referred to this transgender delusion as a 21st century greatest societal poison. It has become the decay of a moral civilization. Our children are being groomed by the biggest lie known to mankind. There has been a 5,000% increase in transgender ideology. It is a contagion that is rapidly spreading among our kids. It has become a badge of honor to be a member of this cult. Our children are being turned over to predators that delight in this kind of abuse. We are witnessing a dark, evil chapter in medicine. This lie has infiltrated medical community that has been captured by radical gender ideology. The treatment of hormones and surgical mutilation has become a $1 million industry. The American College of Pediatrics has recently put out a statement calling upon medical professionals to immediately stop the promotion and transgender treatment of our children. They are urging them to adhere to evidence-based research now available on the subject. There is no long-term evidence these treatments are therapeutic. Gender-affirming clinics across America should be immediately shut down. Recently, the Texas Supreme Court, in an 8-1 decision, has upheld the state's decision to ban all gender-affirming care to minors. Puberty is not a disorder or a disease. It is something that occurs naturally. You can take all the hormones you want and have the surgeries to alter your body's outward appearance, but you cannot change the coding of your DNA that determines your sex. You see, God does not make mistakes, but mankind does.
Thank you.
Diane Daniel.
Congratulations on the wins that we heard earlier this evening. It was very nice to hear. I'd like to talk about all the other students we have that I believe are being neglected. The rhetoric and hate has to stop. The school board has a lot of power. Use this power for good. Promote communication by actually speaking to one another, not by an email or tweeting or technology, but looking someone face to face and communicating, putting clear common sense thoughts together and expressing yourself positively to others. respect their views and others, and learn from each other. This is what should be happening. I have hired and fired many Conroe ISD students in my career. They don't know how to communicate or function in society. You have failed a lot of them. I see the board pushing mask mandates, pushing vaccines, pushing books on self-mutilation. These may be considered crimes against humanity and subject to a violation of the Nuremberg codes. Where are the basics? Reading, writing, and arithmetic, what you are supposed to be responsible for. Teaching listening skills and respecting others. The 10 Commandments is the basis for a good education and prepares each student on how to handle the world we have created. Let's create a better world for all of our children by doing what is right for humanity. If you are not doing what is right for humanity, you are committing crimes against humanity and against God. I pray for all of you to do the right thing for all the students, not just the 1% that excels or the 1% that can't make it. What about the cluster of all of them? Stop the insanity, reflect in your own behavior, and make the decisions to enrich the lives of all the children in Conroe ISD. You have this power. And remember, elections are coming up in November, and we do hope that we can see a new, fresh board that will comply and understand the needs of this community and to be God-driven and learn how to communicate and love the children and who God created them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Ferris.
Good evening. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the conservative board members. I know that you get a lot of flack, and I know there's a lot of name calling, and I appreciate what you're doing. I voted for you. I hope you'll continue. As far as the book situation, you know, you can take the nastiest material in the world and put it in a book and put flowers and rainbows and puppies on it. It's still inappropriate material. I also would like to see all of the inappropriate material removed from our books, especially that dealing with transgenderism. I've told my story multiple times up here about my great niece who decided one day somebody convinced her she was a boy in a girl's body and gave her parents hell for a year, but they wouldn't comply with her. They wouldn't call her John. They, you know, wouldn't remove her breasts. They're like, no, your name is not John, and we're not going to call you that. Well, I'm happy to report she came to her senses when she fell in love with the young man, and they're getting married in October. So you need to leave it alone. It's not the board's business to try to deal with sexuality in children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Scruggs.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Last month, you had some folks complaining at the level 3 hearing about the removal of books from instructional materials. 19 out of 5,000 books were removed by a committee of mostly Conroe ISD employees due to having adult content that was not appropriate for minors. This is not called book banning, as some at the last board meeting may have suggested. One of the major factors you are supposed to consider is whether or not a particular book or materials is age appropriate. This is not college. This is public education of minor children. If parents want their child to read a particular book, it can most likely be found from the local county library. Every book that I've reviewed, I've looked up, and I can check it out at the county library. Why should we taxpayers use money that we have given to the school for our taxes for that kind of material? Another factor you are to consider before approving content of books or material what the prevailing community standards are. Our community is overwhelmingly a conservative community, as shown by the grassroots conservative candidates sweeping most all elections this year. Yet books like After the Ink Dries, which is markedly inappropriate and resides on library shelves in CISD. It is about a young girl named Erica who wakes up at a drunken house party clothed only from the waist up, with boys' names written in Sharpies all over the lower part of her body. Zero literary value in this book. Conroe ISD has big problems sifting out books that are not suitable for minors, nor age appropriate. Your libraries are filled with disgusting books that would not pass the test of being okay for minors. I appreciate Trustees Odenweiler, Nelson, and Dungan for consistently standing strong to protect children in CISD. For the other trustees, why don't you just ask Jesus what to do? He will give you wisdom, and you don't need to roll your eyes. It works. Try it sometime.
Thank you.
Robert LaBelle.
That's a good one.
Good morning, CISD.
Good morning.
Well, I guess I'll continue on the vein here. I guess things changed on what you had all going here, but anyway, I'll just start from the beginning, almost the beginning. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. Moving on toward the other end of the book, and they're talking with some unbelievers, they say in 2 Peter, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. I'm talking about the people that weren't believing. For this, they are willingly ignorant. And some of you here are willingly ignorant. Let's see, let me translate that for you. Willingly ignorant. Stupid on purpose. All right? It's very easy. If I don't know where this confusion came from and why it's being promoted. If you want to know if you're a boy or a girl, take either hand, reach it between your legs and feel around. If you got an innie, you're a girl. You got an outie, you're a boy. If you're a boy, you use the boys' restroom, the boys' locker room, you play boys' sports. If you're a girl, you use the girls' restroom, the girls' locker room, play girls' sports. Boys and girls are different. They're equal in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, boys are boys, girls are girls. Just like a fork and a spoon. You can use them both for eating. They're different. All right. And on the bigger pitch here, we must quit sucking on the National School Board's tit and quit capitulating to the national perversions pushed onto every school board in this whole country. The National School Board is the school board of Jeffrey Epstein-style perverts. And I am tired of the perversions in this whole country, and in particular in this place right here. I will leave it there. God bless you.
God bless you.
Rena Beadle.
Good evening. My name is Rena Beadle. I'm a former teacher of Conroe ISD, proud mom of 5 sons, and I came tonight to tell you my story. I've never formally stood in front of you to share it, and I thought now was the time to do so. During a 2021 Zoom meeting with our staff, we as teachers at Grangerland Intermediate were informed that if a child wanted to be referred to as Susie, say for instance a boy, now this is 5th and 6th grade, wanted to identify as a girl and be called by a girl's name, we were told that we had to call that student by the girl name. And we also were not allowed to call the parents and let them know. This was very devastating to me as not only a teacher, because I believe in contacting the parents and keeping them abreast of what's going on with their child, but also as a mother and now a grandmother of children that are in this district right now. So I went to my administrators, who I worked very, very closely with, and who I had a lot of respect for, I still do. And I just expressed what I was feeling. And I said, I cannot say this. I cannot comply with this. And she said, Mrs. Beadle, we are just as flabbergasted as you. In fact, we called district to make sure that what we were supposed to say was exactly what they wanted us to say. And we were told word for word, verbatim, this is what I want told. I have been very, very concerned about this. I'm here for several reasons. Number one, I was informed in May that a concerned citizen had questions about what was being done about this, and they were told that it was a lie, that they had investigated it and found it not to be true. Well, it is the truth, I'm here to tell you, as well as another coworker who had a similar situation where a child actually did want to be called by a different name and was told, according to Title IX, this could not be called to the parent's attention. So I'm here to tell you the truth, that it did happen, and I'm also asking you to please create the policy to support Senate Bill 11 so that our parents do continue to have rights.
Thank you.
Paul Laskowski.
Good evening. It's been a while. Last year, Trustee Williams requested a discussion on how much time this board wastes on irrelevant topics. So this summer, I combed through 11 years of board meetings on YouTube, including that 2021 incident she's referring to, which Dr. Knoll addressed during a board meeting. And you can go back and watch it. I'm not saying it's resolved, I'm just saying it was brought up. And I uncovered two key facts. Fact one, Dr. Knoll, Ms. Galatis, Ms. Godfrey, President Hubert, Trustees Wagaman, Chase, and Williams, and all Conroe ISD administrators, educators, and staff, you represent the best of this district. You carry the light of education forged by your predecessors who created a district that has drawn families from around the world. You embody the empathy, respect, and reason necessary for the well-being of our students to uphold the motto, all means all. By the way, you may not find those books in the Montgomery County libraries because there was a policy change in the last few months. That's another clarification. Fact two, the mama bears represent the worst of this district. Since the 2022 election, which had the lowest midterm voter turnout in nearly a decade, the average duration of these board meetings has doubled, wasting a cumulative 16 or more hours on books, posters, librarian conferences, and bizarre ideology discussions, none of which has yielded material benefit for students. You ignore the constituents who plead, don't remove these books, but you embrace the ones that say do. You ignore experts and evidence that are inconvenient to your beliefs despite the 48 hours of sleepless study. You probably didn't study about Thomas Jefferson that much. You seek to institute policies that will harm marginalized students, and you seek to shield students from learning the uncomfortable facts about founding fathers as if making idols of mere mortal men. You waste our time stripping education away from children when education is our country's path to reducing violence, reducing poverty, improving mental health, preventing assassination attempts, improving human rights, and mitigating the spread of your ignorance and fear. You are not champions of education. You are clinging desperately to your ideology as it fades into the margins of history, terrified like Dorothy in the forest. Sexuality, science, and slavery, oh my. Either too cowardly or too ignorant to face uncomfortable truths so you can keep chasing a Rockwellian fantasy. I believe this community will rise in the next couple elections to send you and your ideas into the irrelevance you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cassandra Crowe.
That's hard to follow. Hi, I'm Cassandra. I was going to read a resolution that, I don't know if you guys know, but you have a little prodigy here in Conroe ISD. There's a 12-year-old girl who is going to be going into 9th grade at Grand Oaks. She skipped 2 grades. And she reached out to our office. I work for State Representative Steve Toth, and she reached out to our office to let us know about her accomplishments and some other awesome things that she's doing. We're going to be doing a resolution in her honor in the Texas House. And so I was going to read the actual resolution, but because she's not here this evening, I don't want to do it without her being here. But I did want to let you guys know her name is Sathini. Oh, can't say that.
No, please.
Okay, it's been posted online, so.
We don't do it here. I don't care what
Okay, okay. Well, you called my name out, so I thought it was fair game. But
No,
anyway.
you're not a student.
Okay, well, my kids are. But anyway.
I didn't call your kids out either.
So, okay, we'll go back and forth. I will, hopefully one day when she's here and we can recognize her, we'll do that. I will let y'all know when we are going to honor her at the Texas House. It'll actually be on the floor at the Capitol. And they'll do a resolution in her honor and her achievements. It's pretty incredible. Does a lot of service to the community. After Burl, she came back from vacation to serve food and water. Just an incredible little girl that's accomplished so much. And so I just wanted to congratulate her and let you guys know that we're going to do that, and we will let y'all know more details about that. But I guess since I'm not going to be reading that resolution, I will follow up to the gentleman before me and just like the overall tone in general. It was a doozy of a week for a lot of reasons, and there's a lot of stress and angst and fear and anger and sadness and all those things that are permeating our culture and our community. And I just, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for what you do. I'm glad to see you guys all here, that you fared okay from the storm, I'm assuming. There are a lot of things that we disagree on. There's some things that divide us, but way more things unite us. There's much more that we have in common. So we all yearn love and love from our families. We need air to breathe and water, and we come from, we just all have the same needs essentially. There's so much more that brings us together and unites us. So just in the spirit of unity and love and community, thank you guys for what you do. May the Lord bless you and keep you and make his face to shine upon you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have something that I've mentioned to you before, and I told you I wasn't going to sit by and have it happen again.
Okay.
And Trustee Williams just said here, sitting at this dais, to sit your ass down to that person sitting there, standing there talking before us, and it is completely inappropriate, and we should not have to sit here and listen to him speak under his breath. And it wasn't the only person he said things to about today. Just wanted you to have that on the record.
Okay. All right. Are there any other?
I'm going to call the 2 that didn't show.
Sure.
That signed up online. Ginger Russell and Paul Croson.
All right. Okay. Thank you for those who participated. Oh, excuse me.
I did sign up.
You did?
I didn't get your online sign up. Said it went through, but it was today. But that's okay.
Okay.
I didn't get it. Can I speak?
All right.
Can I speak? No, actually,
If it's not on the list, we'll get you next week, next time, Tina.
disrespectful.
All right, moving on, please. Let's move on. Moving on to the consent agenda. I have heard that we need to remove item D. Do I have a motion to approve everything other than item D?
Motion to approve removing item D.
Extract it?
Yes, ma'am. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Oppose?
No, I was for.
You're for. All right. Motion passes. Okay. Moving to item D, which is review State Board of Education certification, professional development clearinghouse recommendations, and consider and approve the district's professional development plan for the 2024-2025 school year. Ms. Nelson?
Yeah, I think, I'll take it. We had a great conversation with Ms. Nelson today, and I think it would be beneficial for everyone to have this pulled out just so that we can provide some explanation. As mentioned in our conversation today, the title of this item is somewhat confusing because what we're really speaking to are the specific required trainings from SBOE, not the full staff development plan in mass, right?
SBEC, correct?
Yes. So what we're talking about are what we refer to as safe schools still, those of us that have been here a long time and haven't transitioned to called Vector Solutions yet. But these are the annual trainings in which we all of our staff completes to meet the requirements, from pest management to sexual harassment to cybersecurity, trips and fall. I mean, there's a myriad of things. Well, one of the things that we wanted to point out today is there are multiple of those trainings, be it student and staff relationships or staff to staff sexual harassment, where tenets of Title IX roll through those trainings. Okay, there are pieces in that. Based on the judge's ruling from last week and what we've been talking about for months, we anticipated happening. We want to make it clear that none of the new tenets of Title IX will be included in our trainings. We will be reverting back to the previous versions of the training, which they were 2020. But we'll be using those trainings for this year moving forward. So we'll be still based on the previous direction from Title IX. So just wanted to make that clear so that everybody knew that. So I don't, just also we catch the essence of that. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think so. I mean, one of the things that was confusing was the district's professional development plan. And reading it, I was thinking,
this is it.
I'm sure that we have more than just this listing. So thank you for clarifying. Yeah, and then just going back, since we don't have an official ruling, so using the verbiage that was in the 2024 listing. So it's a great call going back to what we had before. So thanks for making that happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. All those in favor shall by uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. All right. Moving on to item 5A, which is receive information on the impact and response to Hurricane Burl.
All right. Well, it has been quite a week for everybody, and I know that we still, at this moment, have some employees right here in HR office, legal office that did not have power today. I think one got power back today, which was a celebration, but we still have leadership here on our team that still do not have power in their homes, and a lot of families are still in that boat. So I know many of us went through the times of not having power, and that's hard, but but compared to some of those that we saw in need, it's kind of first world problems a little bit. But I just want to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about the district's response to Burl and kind of where we are, just so we could update you. I tried to keep you updated as I could throughout the process, but I didn't have cell service. You probably didn't either, and some of you got messages, some of you didn't. Burl hit on July 8th. And everybody was surprised a little bit, I think, right? Except one guy, because I received an email. I looked it up because I wanted to give you the date. I received an email on June 29th from my friend Chris McCord that said, "We are watching Burl in the Gulf, sir. We'll be ready," on June 29th. And I remember getting the email and I went, "What's a Burl?" And then I went to the tracker thing, and it said it was going to go to Mexico. And I thought, oh, McCord. And you know what? We were ready because of people like Chris McCord, who are always ahead. Absolutely. And Chris is going to share with you tonight some of the facts and some of the things that we've done and things that we have to handle over the next couple of weeks because of Burl. And then Karen, during her discussion about the budget, will talk a little bit about the financial impact of that, and so we'll be able to get that. But this is really a conversation about people. And we have the most amazing people. And Chris is one of them, and he is everywhere. But there's so many other people that are there. Marshall Schrader and his team. Marshall's here. Maintenance and custodial, on Monday afternoon, when everybody was trying to scramble and figure out where they were going to get gas and figure out what was going on in their house, Marshall and his leadership team were already at work and already making everything happen to make sure that our schools were taken care of. And they worked all week long. But there are other people that kind of go in the background unless they didn't. Because if they didn't do what they do, it would be the biggest story in Montgomery County, and that's people like our finance department with Karen Garza and payroll led by Rachel Jimenez and her team, because they showed up here in this building when this building didn't have power, worked upstairs in the heat to make sure that payroll went out to our 10,000 employees just as they expected. Because could you imagine being at home, not having power, and then your paycheck not hit? But that never happens to us because that team makes it happen, and our technology team has to make sure the technology works. So it just takes so many people. So I just want to say thank you. Just great thanks to all those folks. And Mr. McCord, if you would share with us just a little bit about what we've dealt with and where we're going to head moving forward, please, sir.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, good evening. So just a few highlights, and some of these Dr. Knoll touched on. But the first thing I want to do is really give a shout out to the maintenance team for the job they did over the break. And it's easy to say that's their job, and it is their job. It's all of our job, and we're going to fulfill our job and do it with fidelity. But what I would tell you is the maintenance team was out early, even the same day that Burl hit, and working to restore our buildings, to maintain things as far as safety, even as their own homes didn't have power and their own homes were damaged. And if you were there and you could know what was going on, you would have been really proud. And I was proud of their efforts, and it makes a big difference. And never ever take them for granted, and never ever take, although this is awkward since he's about 10 feet to my left, take Marshall Schrader for granted. He's a good guy. I don't care what they say. Next up, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. So we were able to provide some major distribution of needed supplies throughout the community with the coordination of the county and the food bank. And some of you may have been there at Woodforest Bank Stadium, Grand Oaks High School, and Candy Creek High School. And I'd like to thank many of the leaders who are behind me, because many of them showed up for hours to help distribute water and MREs and watermelons or food or whatever we had over the time when it was hot, and they had things to do and take care of also, so I appreciate them. I want to give you a full picture. We have some really excellent fencing. It's the anti-scaling fencing that's a part of Chapter 61. You've seen it. It's black galvanized. It has the slats. It took a little bit of a beating in places, as you would expect, just as the fences in our neighborhoods did. And we are in the process of restoring that, and so that is underway. Also, I will tell you, just like in your own home, the electrical loss and instability of the grid is very damaging and problematic to everything HVAC, including our chillers and air handlers. We are addressing that and working for that. People really like air conditioning, including me. I would tell you that communication was a challenge. We did work proactively. We had some higher powered radios for key personnel to be able to communicate in the event that we lost communication. As thought, we did lose communication for much of the time, and if you're like me, my phone said SOS for days, but we were able to communicate, so we are going to continue to expand that. And just in the hurricane season, we're barely through the Ides of July. We have a long ways to go in hurricane season, so we're going to continue to learn and expand on what has happened based on Burl. So I want to be clear with you, debris and tree cleanup costs are going to be expensive and significant, just like they are for the community and individuals. We lost 1 week of time on an already constricted timeline for construction. Easy may address that in a few minutes. We will rise to the challenge as we always do, but it's going to be an issue, but we will make it. I will tell you, one of the things we were proud of, the county and the hospital district, specifically with ambulances, was in a real bind. You had all the usual calls that they have to make, combined with all the heat-related calls and all the carbon monoxide-related calls, and they were in desperate need of diesel. The transportation department and the maintenance department worked together right in the middle of all this to find diesel to be able to support their equipment. And so I can't say for sure that it saved lives, but I believe it made a difference, and I appreciate their efforts. I will tell you the Jet Center was pivotal. We were able to get power at the Jet Center, and we were able to get our team together on, I believe, Dr. Knoll, that was Thursday. It is really one of the best days I've experienced in 35-ish years as an educator, as we collaborated, boots on the ground together, right beside each other, addressing things that needed to get done. It was really a neat and fruitful day. I will tell you on the positive also that the Network Operations Center, colloquially known by us as the NOC, which is the brain that drives everything we do for communication and making everything work for us, it performed flawlessly through the efforts of technology and the maintenance team on the generators, and that allowed payroll to process and take care of other critical district infrastructure functions that needed to occur. So that was a big deal. Dr. Knoll mentioned, but I will also do a shout out to Karen Garza team and Rachel Jimenez for their efforts. They were here in the heat. They were here on Friday. They worked on the weekends to do whatever it took. So they really went above and beyond. So kudos to them. And so that's kind of where we are. And so we will live and learn and continue to improve. And I know Karen Garza will talk more about this, but that's where we are right now. Dr. Knoll, anything I need to mention more or elaborate on?
Go ahead.
I have a question,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
McCord. When we have incidents like this where we get damage from a natural, some kind of natural disaster, is there a fund that we can tap into to help us offset costs for repair and replacement, or does that just come out of our budget?
Well, generally it's from the general fund, no pun intended. But Mrs. Garza and I have collaborated today wherever she is, and there are a couple of things worth mentioning. And I don't want to steal her thunder, and she can say it better than I can. But
Here she comes.
okay, here's Karen Garza.
You were stalling as long as you could,
Yes.
hoping she was coming, and she was.
All right, well, I have a slide on this in my presentation, but I'll speak to it now. So we're evaluating the losses right now. We're not ready to put a number on it, but it could reach in excess of $1 million. We do have property insurance, but much like our homeowners insurance, this falls under the wind claim. So there is a 2% deductible per location, so we will not have enough loss to recover anything from property insurance. What we are keeping an eye on is possible FEMA assistance. We're going to put mechanisms in place to track the expenditures that we have, responding to the storm, and when more information comes out about a possible FEMA claim, we will pursue that if we can to recover some of those expenses. One of the things that I was going to bring to your attention that we could consider for fiscal year 25-26 is the tax code does allow a mechanism for us to access additional golden pennies called disaster pennies. This would allow us to recoup and tap into those golden pennies to get back some of the money that we lost responding to the storm. We have a year to think about this, but it's just something I want you to be aware of. We have done this once before. I think it was during Hurricane Harvey. We used 2 disaster pennies. So this is something we have available to us, not this year when we adopt the tax rate, but a year from now when we adopt the tax rate, that we could do that. So we could discuss that more and research that as the year goes on, but that is also an option that we could use.
And, excuse me, and those disaster pennies, does that have to go to the voters?
It does not. That is board approval.
Perfect.
For
Thank
1
you.
year only. Okay?
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McCord? On the debris and cleanup and the expense of that, is there any portion of it that we might be able to use with the county as far as when they're cleaning up that would help offset expense of getting rid of the debris when the county's picking up debris in areas of our schools?
It's a good question. And obviously looking around my own neighborhood in the county, there's a lot of debris. Marshall, I don't know that there would be. Would you want to weigh in on that?
I guess our only concern is their timeline. Do we want to wait on the county to pick up the debris at our campuses? So we've started that process already. We anticipate our guys starting to pick that stuff up starting Monday of next week. So we will be picking it up and taking it to either a site a storage site and/or taking it to a dump whenever they allow us to bring it to them.
So, do they charge the district for putting the items in the dump?
We bring it to our location.
Our own dump.
Location, and then we'll have to determine what we do with it from there. Our only concern is the more debris you pile up around a location,
Yes.
the more danger it is for our own sites to be a flammable hazard.
And then as far as the cleanup part, is there any way that we could mobilize volunteer crews as far as gathering up all that stuff so that we could help the manpower as far as, I mean, if it's that much, or are you already beyond that?
I don't know that you want to anticipate that liability.
Okay.
Just picking up that stuff. I'd help my neighbor pick up their stuff, but I don't know that I'd want anybody to come on our property and pick it up. I think I'm not an insurance expert. I'll let somebody else speak to that. I don't know that we want to let volunteers help us.
And then my last question had to do with this non-scalable fencing that we're putting up. I know that we are at York, the fence line was destroyed, and it's not the first time. I know school safety is, I mean, our children's safety is, there's no price that we really can put on that. I understand it, but I'm very concerned because these fences have gone down now, especially in that location, more than once. This time, it is, I mean, I don't even see, except for the fence, the chain link fence with the special slatting in it, could probably be, but those posts are destroyed. So I'm becoming concerned at that mounting cost that is going to be coming and what we're going to do to, in the future, try to budget for keeping up with that, because obviously they're windscapes. I mean, they're catching the wind, and so I'm thinking of that every time I go by it, and I'm seeing one school and we have multiple ones. So I'm also thinking safety and security wise of us having to go to the state and state, look, we're having to put these fences in and we want to put these in for our students, but this is going to be an ongoing expense that we're going to face, that we're taking out of the pockets of educating our students and so forth going forward. So anything you all could even help, I mean, that we can do to help or to help push that through or do anything, please let me know.
Yeah, I think you're dead on to that. It would be helpful. One of the things that we've looked at are some of the grants will allow you to install fences, but we don't think that they will allow us to repair fences. So some of it is
that we put up is grant.
Yeah, they're grant funded, but we may not be able to use grant funds now to repair them.
And remember, I just asked that question either at the last meeting or in the June meeting or the July 9th workshop or something where I had that concern because I'd seen that fence go down more than once.
And it's going to keep happening.
It's going to keep happening. And yes, we need the protection. I'm not saying not, but that's going to be an ongoing expense, and we just have to.
I think that would be a fair conversation to have with legislators about we need to make sure grant rules allow
for repairs.
For repair, but second of all is that understanding that they've got to continue to restock that grant money because
that's right.
In their mind, which I understand, it's law of unintended consequences, right? In their mind, we're going to put enough money out there, all these schools are going to put fences up, and then the problem is going to be solved. But the reality is they're going to have to continue to fund this because we have hurricanes, but like you said, we lost in just a regular thunderstorm. You think about West Texas and those wind blows through there. I can't imagine that they don't have the same problems with the so I think if in future conversation it's A, make sure grants allow us to repair, but B, continue to fund it moving forward because we're never going to finish fences.
Do we have money left in that grant?
I think we do, but we can't use it for repairs. It has to be.
Can we use it to replace?
Once we've completed that project.
Okay.
We kind of marked it off of the field.
Thank you.
Here's my question on that. Whenever you go through vendor selection and finding which vendor you're using and which product, is there a way that we could find out the wind resistance up to a certain amount like we do with roofs or other material? Is that a possibility at all?
So the state kind of gave us two options, if you will. One was the non-scalable fence or an 8-foot fence.
Okay.
And I think Mr. McCord can give you more information on how that decision was coming about.
I remember that, and I don't mean to belabor that. I was just saying, is there a way to find out if are there other vendors that may have fences that can withstand the winds? That's all I meant.
It's a worthy question. Yeah, the other option that we talked about in the safety and security meeting when we went to them for input was the 8-foot non-slatted.
Mhm.
There wasn't a lot of inertia or enthusiasm for 8-foot fences around schools.
Okay.
So that's why we went 6-foot slatted.
Yeah.
So we can look into that. I'll
Just
also tell
curious.
you, when you contact the state, I think Dr. Noel alluded to it, but we're in the same boat that all the other school districts are, because they all fall under Chapter 61 also.
Right.
It's really the law of unintended consequences in action.
I
But
think probably the only difference between us and a lot of those school districts is we jumped on the bandwagon early and we wanted to keep our kids safe, and so we went for the gusto and tried to do the right thing.
No complaints there. I mean,
gusto.
No complaints there. I really do thank y'all for that, because like I said, it's not that the expenses, I'm belaboring that, it's just that it's a concern of where we're going on
But
it. So-
there may be specific area. I think it's worthy conversation to think about just the geography of certain areas that may be more likely to be impacted, like the York fence, for example, because it is kind of blows freely through there, right? There's not a lot of protection.
Not much structure.
That may be an area that we need to consider replacing with an 8-foot non-slatted, so that, you know, some of these other fences that have more trees, more structure around them, you know, if it's not a hurricane, it probably won't happen, but maybe in some of these instances, it's worth looking at.
Hope that helps.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right,
Thank
very
you,
good.
guys.
Thanks for the information. Moving on to item B, which is consider and approve the 2024-2025 Student Code of Conduct.
Okay, Dr. Medford.
Good evening. Good to see you guys.
Howdy.
All right. All right, President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll, I come to you this evening for your approval of the 2024-2025 Student Code of Conduct. This Code of Conduct is Conroe ISD's response to the requirement in Chapter 37 of the Texas Education Code. So the code provides methods and options for managing student behavior on the classroom and on school grounds, disciplining students, and then preventing and intervening in student discipline problems. So there haven't been any legislative actions or case laws that have warranted any changes other than the 3 things that we mentioned in your board packet, which is removing the reference to behavior coordinators, as you know, adding nicotine pouches into our prohibited items, and then defining electronic devices in the glossary. So at this time, I request your approval.
All right, do we have a motion? And a
Second.
And discussion. All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Opposed by the same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, and then moving on to item C, which is consider and adopt updated outside facility use fee schedule.
Okay, this is one of the items that we would have discussed in our workshop if we were able to have it last week, but we will bring it forward tonight. Mr. McCord can make his presentation this evening. This is one of those other things that we do that you may not think about, but it plays a pretty big role. You'll see from Mr. McCord's presentation that there's a lot of different factors that go into this, but as we have continued to try to look at our financial situation and make sure that we are being frugal in every regard, this is one of the things that came up through internal audit that looked at our previous fee schedules and said that, you know, we have not kept up with current costs, which in the end does cost us educational dollars. And as we'll see, we've quantified that tonight, and so Mr. McCord is going to bring forward a recommendation to you to update our fee schedule.
So President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll, hello again, I'm back. And so for something completely different, we're here to talk about facility rentals. And this presentation, and hopefully it reflects it when you view it, is a presentation that's been literally years in the making. And so I'm going to present information in consideration for your approval, updated facility rental rates encompassing really 4 different areas, including general rentals, athletic, reduced rate for staff, and the Jet Center. So there's special thanks to a lot of people who've worked literally for years to help put this together. And in no particular order, they are Karen Garza, Marshall Schrader, Cindy Westrup, Chris Ferris, Kevin Witt, and Brandon Stiles. They're all present and here tonight in the studio audience to answer any questions you may have in the next few minutes. So without further ado, I'm going to proceed. So direction on facility rentals is given from Board Policy GKD, legal and local. So facility rates were last updated in Conroe ISD in the year 2016. They took effect in January of 2017. Back in July of 2022, in an audit committee meeting, the Conroe ISD internal audit recommended that we look at a cost recovery increase based on the CPI, which was 22% from January of 17 to July of 22. The CPI has risen since that point another 6.1% to the end of June. So I want to put this in perspective. There are really 4 different ways that we categorize rentals. In just one of those, general rentals, we had approximately nearly 800 rentals between between August of 23 and May of 24. Just give you an idea of the scope of how big an operation this is. So I want to give you a campus perspective. And the campus perspective I'm going to give you is somewhat unique. I had the joy of being a principal of a campus that was the most requested rental facility in the district for 2 decades. And at that campus, it was a somewhat unique campus because of the grade alignment in the facility. So what I will tell you in full transparency, finding a staff member to supervise an outside facility rental can be a challenge. It's more of a challenge at the elementary level than it is at the secondary level, because I could usually find a hardcore group of people who are willing to help and give the time to do whatever it took. When I would work them, and I worked them a lot myself, I was always happy to assist the community. It was engaging and fun, and I built a lot of relationships I still have today. And I will tell you that the Conroe Independent School District facility rentals has helped launch many an organization, and it's helped foster many an organization that already exists. And I will tell you that a great percentage of the churches that occupy the confines of Conroe ISD had their origins in a Conroe ISD building, or a gym, or an elementary campus, or a junior high. So it's launched many organizations. I will tell you, as the building principal, whether I was there or another administrator there, I was always happy to do this because it really helped to have an administrator on site after hours or on the weekends, because things happen all the time. So it helped the person who was renting, and it helped us. I also want to reference something that is specifically indicated in Board Policy GKD, and that is the employee reduced rate provision. So when you see that, and there will be a slide where we talk about that, that is in Board Policy GKD local. And what it's designed to do is to allow sponsors or coaches an opportunity to promote or hold a clinic or a camp or something along those lines to give an affordable rate opportunity for students regardless of what portion of the district they may occupy. So when I talk about reduced rate, that's what that is. So moving along, just going and looking around where we stand compared to districts around us. So we updated in 2016 and implemented in 2017, and we've been operating under the auspices of those rates since then. Tomball updated in 16, and they're doing the same thing we are right now. Klein updated in 19, Spring updated in 16, just like us, and they're updating now. And Humble updated their facility rental rates in 2023. This slide right here really tells the tale. So we talk about cost recovery. All we're looking to do is to recover the cost that the district spends to help facilitate a facility rental. So when we do this, we're not looking to make money. We're certainly not looking to lose a lot of money. We're certainly just looking to recover cost. So you can see here just this chart, and we've worked on this, and this is why I say this is years in the making. The average recovery hours, cost per hour, number of rentals, and that's just the general variety, and what the district costs are. And you can see the income, the revenue produced, and you can see what the costs were. And you can see we had a negative delta of $150,000. So we are here tonight, and we've done the math and the research to come together to put together what we believe, based on our efforts, would allow us to achieve cost recovery. It's worth noting that little asterisk at the bottom. The one thing that's really hard to quantify is the wear and tear of the facilities. And that is a big deal. And we've seen it in places, and we do the best job. That's why we have an active administrator there to oversee, but those are real. So what you have here, this is a chart going left to right. It's broken up to weekdays and weekends. It's broken down to hourly increments for 2 hours and 4 hours. And it shows you what our current Conroe ISD rates are. It shows you the second column working to the right, what we recommend on general facility rentals to achieve cost recovery and to break even. It shows you where Tomball ISD is, Klein, Spring, and Humble, knowing that some of these districts are looking to revise these rates that you even see before you right now to go and elevate them more. It is worth also noting that a couple of things. Our rates, and I can't speak to Tomball, Klein, Spring, Humble, or other districts, but our rates include a custodian and a supplies to make it work. I would draw your attention in the pink horizontal row to the auditorium. And you can see where we are on auditorium now, where we would like to go, and how we relate to other school districts just to put us in a cost recovery mode. I would also draw your attention, if you look under the recommended line for classrooms. Our recommendation, if you approve it, would be that we no longer rent classrooms. And here's why. The administrators work hard. The renters almost always work hard to return a classroom that is used back to the situation and condition it was prior to the rental. But that's really difficult to do, and it causes consternation from time to time for teachers in the classroom. We can usually, if it is a church or some other type of rental, and they need a classroom, we can usually come up with an alternative place to make it work for them. But our recommendation, if you choose to accept it, would be that we would not continue to recommend rent individual classrooms. So this slide right here, and we'll be available for questions. I want to clarify this slide because it could be a little bit confusing, but the slide you see before you, this shows you the staff support fees that I, as a renter, an outside renter, would pay Conroe ISD for these people, for them to support my activity. In almost every instance, really the one that's going to be used is usually just the school location supervisor. But obviously I would need natatorium support if I'm putting on a swim meet. But this is just a somewhat comprehensive look at some of the fees. It shows you what they are now in that left column and what we would recommend potentially, if you choose to approve it, for January 2025 going forward. So once again, this is not what our people get paid. This is what, as a renter, I would pay us for that person's support. Yes, sir.
It looks like you went up about 20% on each one.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, no? It still doesn't look like it'll cover our cost. Because, I mean, you showed initially, go back a couple slides.
Deficit of 150.
CPI.
Go back, right there.
And
Go
I
forward.
think you're right
No, the
here.
488 where we, no, numbers, it's just the numbers.
The chart.
All right, so if you do revenue of 488, and you divide that by the 795, you get about 615. If I take that 150 that wasn't recouped and divide it by 795, I get about 188. So we're missing 188,000 per rental on average, just high level number. If I take that over the 615, that's about a 30% increase in order for us to recoup that 150. Are we comfortable?
We're comparable.
With the
We're
20?
looking to be comparable.
I
Now,
understand, but I'm just saying that, so we still won't be covering our costs, but we're comfortable with that.
we believe, doing the math, we would be comparable. But this is only the beginning of the story. Also have slides to show you for the natatorium and for jet, which is not used often at all, and also for athletic rentals. And aggregately, when you pull them all together, we believe that we can
I'm good with it. I mean, you're gonna make a 20% increase, and understanding that the community, we're doing this, a lot of these rentals, help facilitate growth in a community or community-oriented events, bring a community together, especially out in the Grangerland, Austin area. So all for it. We just got to make sure we're comfortable. You may not get it all back here, but I guess we're comfortable that this number is comparable to what other school districts are doing, correct?
We believe, yes, sir. And we
Okay.
believe that presenting what we present will allow us to achieve cost recovery. And,
I agree.
Yes. So.
But not all, just a good bit of cost recovery.
Correct.
All right.
But there's also the components, so there's the component here, these are the support fees, but also I want to show you here, and Coach Ferris can give us some expertise here. These are recommended athletic facility rental fees for consideration. If you look in the left column, you can see for athletics, you can see our current rental rates. On the middle column, you can see what we would recommend for athletics going forward, starting on January 1st, if you choose to approve it. And then on the right, I started out early talking about the recommended reduced fees that's part of board policy. So what this is a provision where a coach or sponsor on a campus can rent and provide a lower cost opportunity for a child to go to some type of camp, whether it be volleyball, basketball, Lego league, something of that nature. And so this exists for them, and this is what we would recommend. You can see the high school breakdown, the junior high breakdown, and the natatorium breakdown. I appreciate Kevin Witt. Kevin Witt is here. He is our overseer of the natatorium. So these are our recommended facility rates for athletics. And then that leads us to the Jet Center, which has rarely been utilized as a potential rental facility. But our recommendations for this jibe with our other rates as far as custodians and police and such. And you can see how we would break out the Jet Center for potential rental by the entire building, ballroom, individual ballroom, meeting room, custodians and police. Just with the other general rentals, it does include a custodian and the supplies. It is worthy of mentioning also that the school principal has the ability to approve or disapprove any building rental, depending upon what the issue may be. So really, it comes back to the school. They have that ability. This is a district facility, and this is what we would recommend for the Jet Center.
Can I make a point? You back to Jet. I just want to make a point on Jet. Jet is not rented often, not because no one wants to rent it. The entire world wants to rent Jet. But we fill Jet up. So regardless of be Jet or any facility, our schools, the district has access to facilities first. So Jet, we book Jet up a year in advance. So I doubt that's ever going to decrease. And so Jet probably never will be much of an outside rental place because we overfill it. But the same thing with schools, and that's something that is part of our rental agreement. I just want to make sure you're aware of that is, our school activities take priority over an outside rental. So if things happen and we need to, we've canceled school for 2 days and now we need to move the choir concert that was scheduled for Tuesday, we need to move it to Thursday, but there was a rental in there, it says in our rental agreement, if the school needs it, we would take it back because our kids always get first dibs at their schools.
And I'll give you another story that happened this last weekend. We have a church that meets at Burnham Woods. Burnham Woods did not have power. Through the working of Brandon Stiles, who's somewhere here to my left, and also Marshall, and a source close to me who's willing to work facility rentals, we were able to move the church from Burnham Woods to Bradley, and they were successful in their congregation on Sunday. So we try to work with people. We try to use common sense. We make sure they have everything they need to rent, and it works well, but there's a lot of people that put a lot of effort into it. And so some of these people are here that can answer some questions. We've done our best, and either myself or some of these designees are here to help.
Let me entertain a motion, then we can open up for more discussion. Do we have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept is written.
Motion and a second?
Second.
All right. And any questions from anybody? So, 2 quick questions. Just out of curiosity, why are we waiting till January 1st and not whenever our budget starts? Why do we not have it in conjunction with when our budget starts?
I can explain the thinking, we've done this historically, and we can do whatever, but y'all can do whatever you want to do. We would like to give the organizations time to plan and adjust. So we didn't want to just thrust it upon them. Okay. But we can certainly do whatever y'all think is appropriate.
That's fine, that makes sense.
But that was our thinking.
The other question I have, and it could be just I didn't understand the dialogue that was going on, but what I was understanding is the increase, albeit 20%, may not be enough to cover the cost.
Doesn't look like
Why are we okay with renting something out that is going to end up costing the district money that is not necessarily a benefit for I know it is a benefit for the community, I understand that. I don't mean to be not a good community partner, but why would we be okay with adopting basically a deficit in this program?
I can tell you that we generally believe, even though the CPI is what it is, through the efficiency of our buildings, and to some degree, the buildings will be cooled to some extent anyway, with the rates that we've proposed, that we can break even. And once again, we can do whatever y'all feel is appropriate, but we're simply looking to break even. And if we need to come back again, we tend to come back once a decade, which is why this was years in the making for me to be here with you tonight. But we can certainly come back earlier. But right now, we would like to give it a chance, to give it for the community, analyze, and come back, and we don't have to wait 10 years to do this again if we feel we need to. That's been our thinking.
And there were some, if you look at that chart, where there are individual spots on there that were significantly more than a 20% increase, like areas that I think we identified where, really 2-hour auditorium rental, we were way, way under, so it is a much bigger jump. So I think that's where we've identified like real losers.
Who schedules the events in the specific buildings? Is it per building or per location?
They will go in through our website, through the maintenance website. And this young man to my left, you're right, Brandon Stiles over here in the aquamarine tealish shirt will be the point guard to meet with them.
You wouldn't happen to know what city he's from, do you?
Where you from, Brandon? Kaufman, Texas.
Oh, nice.
You will forever be introduced now as being from Kaufman, Texas.
Coming from Kaufman, Texas.
I used to live in Terrell, but I was not in the insane asylum. Maybe I was the hospital principal.
So everything goes through him for the scheduling?
He's the point person for contact, yes.
Okay.
And for a lot of these, for example, the churches, they are recurring. We have a great relationship with the churches. But then sometimes we'll have a one-off rental.
Right.
So it varies. Brandon, Marshall, anything to elaborate on?
So we have a website. So
give them the mic and the world can hear you.
Here you go, Marshall.
Your favorite?
As part of our work order program, we also have a facility direct program that also they go in and they register as a renter, if you will. They submit their rental request. It goes to the campus. The campus principal has to approve it. And then Brandon takes over if the campus principal approves it. He checks insurance. He communicates with them on rates. We have a process in place where they have to pay for their rental 10 days in advance of the rental. He invoices them. He collects the fees. It goes into finances, general budget. And so it's managed all through, we used to pay through check. We no longer accept checks. Now they pay all through a website. And the new rate will be all inclusive.
So if everything is going through that funnel, and just help me understand, so why wouldn't we just send them a bill afterwards so we're not losing money? It seems like the problem is we're losing money.
Because the goal would be to get our money prior to the event rental.
Okay,
they could come in and use our facilities and perhaps.
So then could you do like, we need a deposit and then here's the remainder of what you owe? Because somewhere we're missing it, right? So there's a deficit, so somewhere we're missing.
The deficit is to us, the deficit through our study and with Karen and Cindy and all of us together, the deficit is the fact that our rental rates don't keep up with everybody else's and what it costs us to produce these events.
Okay.
Just the utilities alone are expensive.
And that's calculated into that rate as well.
But I tell you, done correctly, this really benefits everybody if it's done correctly. And it's a big deal.
Okay.
It's a big deal.
Very good. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Of the 795 rentals, how many were classrooms?
A very small number of them. Brandon, help me.
We currently have one renter that uses the classroom.
It's a church, one church, is that it? One church uses.
And they've not currently re-signed. I think they're out in August, December. So theirs ends in December. So that's kind of the thinking that we would give them plenty of notice to know that there's plenty of other spaces that they can use in the school building. So we could they could still hold their classrooms. That it might be in a hallway, it might be in a different area of the building versus using a classroom teacher's classroom.
So making those do not rent would not cause a significant impact?
No.
Yeah, okay.
We'll work with them.
And then just maybe high level, because I also would have expected the rates to be about 5 to 10% more. Can y'all talk about how the rates were calculated?
Well, we work with Mrs. Garza's team, and Mrs. Garza may want to come up and elaborate a little bit. This slide here, we worked to get to answer your question, we worked to get the average cost per hours. At cost per hours, we did upper level math. And Mrs. Garza may want to elaborate. She is really good at math.
Are you asking about this slide or the slide before where we're showing the recommended rates? Because those rates that we're recommending for 1/1 of '25 were based on what we're seeing from surrounding districts in terms of their rates.
So that's exactly what I want to know.
Yes.
The methodology behind the calculation of the new rates. So you just look at comparable districts, or we looked at historical information to figure out the break-even point? Can you help me with that?
More of historical. So we did an average cost
Historical.
for electricity, yes ma'am.
Okay,
Of
yeah.
what our cost is to be able to put on the event. And like Mr. McCord said, we're just trying to break even, we're not trying to make money. It could be in 2
Yeah.
years
Right.
that electricity costs go up, natural gas price, and we may need
Sure.
to come back and say we're no longer meeting that mark.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Williams, to speak to your point about the actual recovery of those costs, we are estimating based on the recommended rates that we should generate another $200,000 to $250,000. While it looks like it's a 20% increase across the board, some of the more commonly rented spaces like our auditoriums, that fee is increasing significantly more than 20%. So we looked at the percentage of those 795 that fall into each of the categories and what the increase was for each of those to come up what we thought we could generate in additional revenue.
What about volume? Are you anticipating volume to change? Volume of rental?
Well, that is a real possibility if fees increase such that, entities cannot
Volume
rent,
goes
but then we
down.
wouldn't have the costs associated with it as
I
well.
understand. So some of the costs, I looked at that. All of those incremental costs are variable costs, correct? So none of the costs are fixed. So we don't leverage anything by volume increases. Is that what we're saying?
Correct.
Okay. I'll go along with that.
It's also worth mentioning as we factor, and we talked about it a few minutes ago, but wear and tear is real.
Yeah.
Wear and tear, just like in your own home, wear and tear is real.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had
Thank you.
we've had a motion and a second to adopt the outside facility use fee schedule, and a second. Call the vote. All those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, if we could have a 5-minute break. The time now is 8:09. All right, we are back in session. Time is 8:18. About 10 minutes. That's pretty good. All right, moving on to item 6, which is Texas Education Agency waivers. A, consider and approve submission of a low attendance waiver to the Texas Education Agency. Dr.
Yeah,
Knoll.
so as you mentioned there, we've reached the waiver portion of tonight's show. And just again to give you a general overview here, typically these are items that would always be in consent agenda. And we actually had them there when we built it. But then when we looked, there's like 6 of them in a row. Normally these things come in like one at a time, but today there's like whatever it is, 5 or 6 all together. So we thought, well, rather than just put them in consent, we'll have Dr. Medford just present. She's just going to give a quick presentation. They're all fairly simple items, but she can give us just a quick overview. We will need to vote on each of them individually, but she'll be able to give us a little more information on each one.
Very good.
Awesome. As he said, we have 5 in a row. I'll go through them quickly, but they're really important to us. They have financial implications and just kind of day-to-day functioning for our campuses. So these were all presented and approved by the district level planning and decision-making committee as well. And so the first one is for our low attendance waiver, as President Hubert mentioned. So this allows us to, when attendance is at least 10 percentage points below the average of the previous year, we can request this waiver. And so you might have heard there was a total solar eclipse on April the 8th, which resulted in a large number of campuses with low that met that requirement. So we would like to submit for a waiver for those minutes, which equals a lot of money for our fund balance. So at this time, I request your approval of the low attendance waiver.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion shall by uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Very good. Motion carries. Thank you.
One
Item
down.
B.
Here we go.
Moving on.
So this is consider and approve submission of a missed school day waiver. So this one's a little bit different because it's the entire school day. Back on May 17th, 2024, Patterson, Bosman, and Stockton. And then on May 22nd, Broadway Elementary was closed due to that power outage that was prolonged. We had that big weather event. And so again, the state allows us to submit a waiver to recoup those minutes for those campuses because of that safety concern for those students. So at this time, I request your approval of the missed school day waiver for those 4 campuses.
Okay.
So move.
A motion. Do we have
Second.
motion is second. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor shall by uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C.
All right, this is a waiver that it's called the Teacher Data Portal of Texas Assessment Management System waiver. And what this allows us, instead of using a single system that the state provides, it allows us to use a local system. We call it Eduphoria. You've probably heard that. We've been using that for many years, and it allows us, functionality is just better for our campus staff. They do their manage local and state assessments through that system, as well as their appraisals and managing all of the hours that they have to have for their certifications all in one place. So we use that instead. And so this is one of those 3-year waivers. So with your approval, we will be allowed to use Eduphoria instead of that one single system for 24-25, 25-26, and 26-27. So at this time, I request your approval.
All right. Do you have a motion?
So move.
Motion.
We have a
Second.
Motion and a second. All right. All those in favor shall by uplifted
I have a
hand.
question.
Oh, excuse me. I should have asked that. Please go ahead.
Just to clarify, is there a reason this particular one's a 3-year versus a 1-year?
Each waiver is very different. So the attendance ones obviously have to have an event. Some waivers the state allows us to do or requires 1 year, and some allows us to do multiple years at one time. And so this is one of those that allows it. It's just the waiver system's different for each one.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Very good. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item D.
All right, so this one's a multi-year, but the different years. This is the modified schedule for the state assessment testing days waiver. These are very wordy. What this does, it allows our upper level grade students who aren't testing on assessment days to have late arrival without being punished for not having those minutes. So it allows to make sure we have the number of teachers needed to give assessments and supervise, and allows for less disruption. And so this waiver, we would go through the 26-27 school year. So at this time, I request your approval.
So move.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor shall be uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? All right. Motion carries.
All
And
right.
item E.
Last one. So this is to consider and approve submission of a foreign exchange student waiver. So this waiver allows the district to limit the number of foreign exchange students at our high schools. It's necessary, as you know, we have capacity issues at all of our buildings. And so this would allow us to limit that to 6 or fewer. And this is a 3-year waiver. So it goes through the 26-27 school year. So at this time, I request your approval.
And this would be a continuation of a previous
yes.
waiver. It's just renewing it. We've had this in the past.
I should have said that. The last 3 waivers were all continuations that we've had for many years.
Of 6 students per campus?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second?
Second.
All
I don't
right.
know who called it.
All right, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Knoll, when do we allow people to start submitting for exchange students? I know it has to be through an approved and accredited exchange student program, because I know that we've had some that either miss deadlines or they're on waiting lists.
so.
And
It has to do
so
with
Dr.
the
Povich is our keeper of that information.
It varies, honestly, per campus is really, but they've all established their routines on their campuses on when they accept waivers.
Okay.
So on that, I can tell you the demand is a lot higher, and so it gets very competitive. But they all have a start date and then and it fills up soon. I would say within the first couple of days, right afterward. So.
Okay, perfect.
I have people calling me now for 25, 26 year.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Very good, motion carries. One question under this section, I know it's not on the agenda, but when will we be able to apply for a waiver for this last week for summer school at all?
We will not need a waiver
okay.
For the summer school, so there's no financial impact, right? Dr. Povich, we had one day corrective.
Yeah, we had 1 day left on Monday was the closing day, and it was for the initial credit high school students. They actually took their final exams on the Friday before.
Okay.
Because they were smart enough to see the weather coming. They had the kids take the test then. And so really the only thing we had to do was have teachers close out grades and so forth. And they did that on Friday, close out the grades. Any kids that didn't make the final exams, we're sending those final exams back to their home campus. And then whenever the kid is able to, can come up and make that test if they need to. Honestly, most of these kids, well, they're all initial credit, so they're working ahead. So a lot of them have good grades already. And so we also had the option that if for whatever reason we could exempt and close out, make sure the kid gets the credit they need. So we're going to work with the families given the circumstances.
Okay.
So our summer school staff did a really good job in anticipating the need.
Awesome, thank you.
We also, go ahead.
I was going to say, we don't generate ADA for summer school, so
Okay.
there is no financial impact.
Okay, very good.
And we have ESY was starting their second session that Monday, and so what they picked back up this Monday, and then they're collecting data like we do for our students that need that to see what they lost over that week to make up the time if we needed. So
That's
it was impressive.
extended school year
Oh,
for
sorry.
special education students.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much.
And I'd like to say also, Dr. Knoll, and whoever made the decisions to not put this in consent agenda, because I had multiple people reach out to me going, what's with all these waivers? And I said, it's normal things, and went through it. And it helped by being able to hear it from you guys why, and it adds transparency. So thank you.
Yeah. I'll be back. Don't worry. I feel like there'll be some more
Don't
weather
go far.
days for me to come back and see you. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay, moving on to item 7, which is planning and construction. Item A, receive capital improvements update. Mr. Foster.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. It's my pleasure to bring forward our update for our capital improvements we have underway throughout the district. And we'll start with our safety and security program for 23-24, which is our final installment of our 2019 bond referendum. So that project is moving along well. We've been working with the jurisdictions having authority at these campuses, going through inspections. So the hurricane did disrupt those inspections, But they have picked back up this week as our county and other first responder staff has been freed up to do their normal duties. So those processes are ongoing. Nothing would affect opening schools or anything. It's just commissioning systems that we put in over the past year. We do anticipate this project continuing through the end of the calendar year 2024. I mean, so it is on schedule and moving along as we anticipated, and is on schedule to finish on time. At Bartlett Elementary, scheduled to open in August, when the school students will approach there for the first time on the first day next month. You can see from our red picture, grass is growing in the yard. The building is substantially complete, and we're looking forward to receiving our learning materials later this week. So that building is scheduled to open without incident next month. At Isolar Elementary, flex school number 24, so that one is on schedule. You see from our red picture here, the detention ponds, things like that to help control the water on the site are largely constructed. They're working on the foundations. You can see the tiny little circles in the building pad. Those are the drilled and reamed foundations for that building to hold up that structure. So that project is moving along nicely and is on schedule to open in August of next year. At Campbell Elementary, flex school number 25, it is also on schedule to open in August of next year. It's a little bit further ahead there, which is a good thing. I mean, ahead in construction is always better than behind. You can see the blue in the upper right-hand corner is the grade beams that are preparing for the slabs in that area of that building. You can see we got a head start on the driveways that help us give more access and dry land to approach it from a construction standpoint. So that is moving along very well, scheduled to open next year. At Grand Oaks, our 7th, 8th, and 9th grade campus opens in January of 2027. So they're about halfway through the building pad construction there now. Over the next couple of weeks, they should finish the building pad and beginning work on the drilled foundations that hold up that structure. Like that project is on schedule. We're working with the developer. You can see the dirt that kind of outlines both sides of through the trees. Those are the new streets and roads that are under construction by the developer. So they're working with us nicely to help maintain our access to that site while we're under construction at the same time they are. They will finish their roads long before we need them, but that project is on schedule and scheduled to open in January of 27. Now, our campus renovations project, this is a project that is affected by Hurricane Burl. It's not affected badly or as badly as it could be. Here, the images you're seeing today are ceiling grid going back in each of those 4 campuses. The air conditioning was scheduled to come on at the end of last week. It is now coming on this week, which is, I mean, we lost a few days, but we are able to recover those. We do have a freezer cooler at Lamar. So they've got a kitchen renovation under construction. That freezer cooler has been delayed, but we do have rental equipment set up to cover that gap so that it won't affect the first day of school or the ability to serve students there. Overall, the projects are moving along like they should. We'll have some overlap with staff when they come back this month. But for students, we should reach that plan just like we had anticipated over the course of that project and their completion. So overall, recovering well. Each of the contractors, or this is all one general contractor, but each project maintains staff and the people working on each of these sites throughout the week last week, getting everything they could get done. Lots of times, neglecting their own needs at their homes to get this done as well. But they're working hard to make sure we'll have school in August. Brings us to Conroe High School. This is another campus that has a tight schedule for the phased construction. We did meet the needs for the fine arts wing, so you can see all the stuff moving into the band hall. So we got our approvals before the 4th of July to move back in and use those spaces. So the band students were started this week, moving all their stuff around and having their summer practices. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, that's the new portion, half of the new dining courtyard, which is fully turfed at this point and draining nicely. So even through the weather we had last week, it did not suffer on the outside of that building. On the inside, what we're looking at is the impact of not having air conditioning. All of last week and Monday delayed the installation of the final floor finish inside the kitchen. So that's we're working to overcome that currently, but we're also working with our child nutrition to create a contingency plan just in case we're delayed getting our health department approvals. We have all the equipment, we have all the stuff, it's just getting it in and getting it approved so it's clean and healthy for the preparation of food is what we're worried about. We think we can make it, but we're working the contingency plan just in case. Largely on the campus itself, we're turning over fine arts, which we did before the 4th of July, and then the dining commons for students when they come to school for the first day in August. Those large spaces are will be ready for them on schedule. The demolition of what we refer to as the tower, which is the three-story section of Conroe High School, is nearing its completion. So right in the center of the building, you see the dirt spot. That used to be a three-story building there. So that has come down, and the abatement crew has been working through the original athletics areas, preparing it for its demolition over the last couple of weeks as they move through. So that demolition kicks off for phase 3, which is where we join the new athletics and the new dining commons together to create the new front door of Conroe High School, which is scheduled to be completed over the next year at the end of December 2025. And that is our current update.
All right, very good. Any questions?
Good job, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, which is consider and approve no red ink for the purchase of no red ink premium student licensing, and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute all documents necessary to effectuate the purchase. All right, Ms. Garza.
All right, good evening. We are asking for you this evening to consider adding no red ink to our over 50K vendor list for fiscal year 23-24 and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute any documents necessary to complete the purchase. Local board policy CH requires that we bring forth to you all vendors in which we plan to spend in excess of $50,000 per fiscal year. We do this every year in September. We try to bring a comprehensive list to you of all the vendors that we feel we will potentially spend over 50K. And occasionally there are circumstances that come up that we need to use a vendor that is not on the over 50K list. So this evening we're asking for your approval to add this vendor to our over 50K list.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion show by the lifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Ms. Garza. Item 9A, receive 2024-2025 preliminary budget update.
All right, well, good evening once again. It's my pleasure to be here to provide you with an update on the preliminary budget for 24-25. This item was on the agenda for the board workshop last week. That unfortunately had to be canceled because of the storm. So tonight I'm just going to kind of hit on the highlights of the things that have changed since we last visited in April at the workshop to discuss the budget. So this is our timeline for the 24-25 budget. We have met in the workshop environment twice, once in February and then again in April. We released our staffing allocations to the campuses and departments earlier this spring. That's so that they could begin the hiring process in preparation for the new school year. We'll give you an update tonight. July 25th, certified values should be released. We will meet with the district level planning and decision-making committee at the end of the month to get their feedback on the budget, and then we will finalize our tax rate calculations, our revenue projections. We'll hold 2 public hearings. The first will be on August 6th, and then the second on August 20th at our regular board meeting. And then at that meeting, we will ask you to adopt the budget and the tax rate.
Okay.
So our outlook has improved since we met in April. In April, we were projecting a deficit for 24-25 of $17.7 million. In our current projection today, we're projecting a deficit of 11.92, so we have improved by $5.8 million. The majority of that we saw on the revenue side. There's a couple of things that resulted in that. The state did release some modified calculations for their hold harmless related to Senate Bill 12, which is the over 65 recalculation for the tax ceiling for those residents. That generated some additional funding for us. And then when we do our projections for 24-25, we use 23-24 attendance data. So now we have a full year's worth of attendance data to use. That resulted some additional revenue generation as well. And then we made some minor modifications on the expenditure side. So we're moving into the year in a little better position, still not optimal as we'll be operating at a deficit, but the position is looking better. So our budget assumptions, we're leaving student enrollment and ADA percentage unchanged from what we discussed in April. Certified property value growth, we have increased that to 8.5%. We were using previously 5.75. Unless something drastic happens in the next 10 days before certified values are released, we should be able to hit that target with no problem. And having said that, because of that growth, we will see additional compression on the M&O tax rate. We were projecting the tax rate in April to stay flat. We will see an overall decrease in the tax rate of just over $0.015. So our certified property value using that 8.5% growth estimate, we will be at $55.5 billion. That's a growth of $4.3 million over our adjusted 23 values. You'll notice there's two values for 2023. The bottom one is our certified values that we received last year in July. And then in the fall, the tax office implemented Senate Bill 12 for that recalculation of our over 65 ceilings. That resulted in an actual loss of value. So we're using our projected growth number on that adjusted number as opposed to what it was certified last July. Just a reminder, it doesn't matter if we grow 8.5% or 20%. Our state calculated entitlement remains the same at 647. It just shifts who's contributing to that entitlement. The higher property values we see growth-wise at the district, the more we're contributing to get to that 647. So it means no additional revenue for us in the general fund. Our projected tax rate for 24-25, one thing worth mentioning on here, our voters did approve a 2-cent increase in the tax rate with the passage of the 2023 bond. At the time of the bond election, our tax rate was 9.621. They approved it to go to 9.821. However, as a result of that 8.5% growth, we will see compression of 3.5 cents. On the M&O side, our debt service tax rate will move from 26 to 28, as was approved by the voters, for a net decrease of over 1.5 pennies. So this is great news for our community. It allows us to build capacity in our debt service fund, but at the same time, they're seeing an overall decrease in the tax rate, although they approved a 2-cent increase.
Right.
This is our tax rate history in a graph format. Since 2021, we have decreased by 26.56 cents. And this is our funding estimate on the revenue side. Our local property tax revenue for next year will actually decrease by $12.72 million. This is a combination of our normal A/B growth of 12.75 and then that over 65 impact for the ceiling recalculation. Actually lost revenue of $25.4 million in tax collections for a net decrease of $12.7 million. On the state funding side, that growth of 37.25 is student growth and the offset of the hold harmless for that Senate Bill 12 loss on the local revenue side. Our teacher incentive allotment and TRS in kind, those are both pass-through items that you will see on the expenditure side as a direct offset. So our total estimated funding increase is just over $27.28 million. Our personnel additions for 24-25, we are proposing total FTE additions in the general fund of 147 positions at a cost of $10.8 million. I have pulled special education out of the allocation to show them separately, to show the impact that they have had on our allocation process for next year. Over half of that $10.8 million that we are adding in the general fund is to support special education. 70.5 FTEs at a cost of $5.6 million. So a tremendous impact on the budget for next year in terms of personnel additions to support our special education program. And this is why. In 2023, our special ed count was 7,230 students. As of June of 2024, we were at 9,680. That's an increase of almost 2,500 special education students. We are projecting growth of an additional 1,500 students moving into 24-25. So this is an area that's going to have tremendous financial impact on our budget going forward, unless the state does something to properly fund special education in the state of Texas. This is our projected budget increase overall, our additional personnel that we just discussed, $10.8 million. Our teacher step adjustment, and this is just to make sure we have a functioning teacher hiring schedule at $1.6 million. Other expenses for fuel, insurance, appraisal district fees, supplies at $2.55 million, and then the offset to our pass-through items for total expenditure increase of $17.7 million. So putting this all together, this is a look at our 24-25 preliminary budget. Beginning revenue of $672.7 million. Our revenue increase of 27.28 puts our total revenue at just over $700 million. On the expenditure side, our beginning amended expenditure budget, $694.2. Our estimated expenditure increase of 17.7 puts our total expenditures at $711.97 million. This gives us an estimated budget shortfall of $11.92 million. So now looking at our fund balance, our savings account, our stated goal is to have between 20 and 25% of the budget in our fund balance. So that would put our target at $142.4 million based on this budget. We are projecting an unassigned fund balance at 8/31/24 of $152.2 million. This gives us capacity of roughly $9.8 million. However, keep in mind the budget that we're proposing is a deficit of $11.9 million, so we're going to dip into that 152.2 million, that would put us at 140.3 million at the end of fiscal year 24-25, which would put us short of our target at just under $2.1 million or 19.7%. Now this could change depending on how we end fiscal year 8/31/24, but right now we think we're pretty confident in our number of 152.2. It could improve just depending on what we're going to see in terms of recovery from the hurricane, but we've kind of got that built into our projections already. So looking at 25-26 pro forma budget, and this is based on our current funding formula. We all understand that there is a legislative session in 2025, so things could change, but this is what we know for now. We just put our standard placeholders in there on the revenue and expense side. I did make an adjustment on the revenue side for interest earnings because rates are going to come back down, so we'll need to take some interest earnings out of the budget. We can adjust that number as we get closer, depending on where rates are. On the expenditure side, additional personnel for growth, $12 million. This does not include a pay raise for our employees, only that teacher step. This would put us at a deficit of 17.43 million for 25-26. So as we begin planning in the fall for budget cuts for the 25-26 year, this is the number that we'll be looking to get to, and we'll bring you a menu of items, in terms of what we want to cut, because we want to have a plan in place in the event that the legislature does not provide any additional funding for us. Doesn't mean we're going to have to implement it. We just need to have a plan in place to cut these out of the budget to get back to a balanced budget, because our fund balance will not support another deficit budget. So we already talked about this, Hurricane Burl. Like I said, assessments are ongoing. We will put mechanisms in place to track expenditures very closely so that we know exactly what we have incurred, and then when FEMA assistance is released, we'll do all that we can to recover what we can, and then we can discuss in fiscal year 25-26 the possibility of accessing some of those disaster pennies if that's something you would like to do. And given the continued compression on the M&O side, we could possibly do that without an increase in the tax rate. So what's next? Certified values, I should be here in the next 10 days. We will then submit those to TEA. That will give us our tax rate. We'll meet with the district level planning and decision making committee at the end of the month, and then finalize our revenue projections, hold our public hearings, and then ask you to adopt the budget and the tax rate.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions?
Yes.
I've got a few questions.
Okay.
Going back to the tax collection, what percentage of collections do we use for our budget, and what is our actual collection?
We typically budget at 100% because with delinquent collections and fees, we reach our adjusted tax roll. Even though we don't collect 100% of our current tax roll, with delinquent collections, we get there in terms of overall revenue.
Okay, so there's no. Okay, so
now that levy is constantly changing throughout the year, right? So we set a levy at the beginning of the year when we adopt the budget based on certified values. And then as values are changing throughout the year, that levy is adjusting, but that all flows through the state funding formula. When those final values are reported to the state, it balances out, because whatever we don't collect, the state puts in terms of the overall tax collections.
Okay. Okay, and then could you go back to the proposed budget deficit? Okay, so I really appreciate y'all working on finding ways to just to cut it down, because it's obviously not comfortable. We haven't had a deficit budget, in a long time. I'm not sure we've had one, but there was some confusion and some discussion about ESSER funds in the past. Just some confusion of people not understanding how that actually works. So the $16 million that we had from ESSER that we spent on this 11.92 is, where does that show? Let me back that up. Does this deficit have anything to do with ESSER funds at all?
It does not. So those
and
ESSER
why is that?
Those ESSER positions are campus-based positions, and they are all formula-driven. So at the beginning, when we first received ESSER funds, we did hire some additional staff to help with learning loss that might have been over formula. Mm-hmm. But we had a plan in place where we knew ESSER funds were running out, that we would be able to absorb them into our budget based on formulas. So if you recall at the April workshop, we shared our allocation process that we go through every year, a very extensive process. We essentially set everything back to zero, put all the formulas back, complete straight formula, and then put in our student enrollment projections for the upcoming school year. And all of those ESSER positions were absorbed into our formulas. So the reason that we are in a shortfall right now is because of the November 2023 raise that was approved because we were hoping for money from the state and it didn't come. So that's the reason we're in the position now that we are, not the ESSER positions, because we had a plan in place.
Right, but going back to that, to the ESSER funds, we had to hire, we opened more schools, we had, well, through that time period, we had 6,000 new students.
Absolutely.
So we had a need, so we had these positions that were being funded through ESSER, and these people may have been doing something else, and we moved them over because we had to hire people for these positions.
And that's why we were able to absorb them into our current formulas.
It wasn't a matter of continuing those ESSER programs. It was a matter of,
Correct.
well, they're already hired. If they want to apply for these other positions and we move over to doing something different, we have to hire these people anyway. That's what that was for.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's all right. I hope everybody understands that now
Yes.
because that was some confusion a couple of months ago, and I appreciate
Yes,
you
so the
explaining that.
November 2023 raise was roughly $15 million. So had we not done that, we would be in a very different position today.
Well,
But
also
we know
with
we needed to
teachers
do
too.
it. Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right. Okay. Any other questions from anybody else?
Yeah. Hi, Ms. Carson. How much of the 37 million was SB 12 hold harmless?
Should be a dollar for dollar offset. So on the
Okay.
slide where I showed the revenue estimate, 25 million of that was SB 12. We should have gotten all that back in state funding.
And why weren't we expecting that?
Well, it's just that they implemented that after we had adopted the budget.
Sure.
That was implemented in the fall.
Okay. All right.
Before tax bills went out, that recalculation was done.
How long does that hold harmless go?
It's written into law right now, so until they change law, it will be there.
And that's 25 million.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the ADA of 92.5.
Yes.
Right. What did we end? What did we end this year at?
We ended the year at like 92.4%.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is actually
But
not
we
too
are seeing a
conservative.
slight increase in where we, it's still hovering in the low 92%, but we are seeing it come back just slightly, but certainly not where we were pre-COVID.
Yeah.
We were in the 94s.
That's one of the things that we learned from, well,
Yeah.
I'd say learn, but that was one of the changes to the COVID is those, people that are sick are more inclined to stay
Right.
home.
But even though that number might be slightly higher than we might realize, our growth in special programs oftentimes offsets what we don't make in general ADA, like we saw this year. We saw tremendous growth in our special ed, our bilingual programs, that sometimes offsets the ADA percentage if it's slightly low. But, 1-2% is not going to move the needle a lot, and our special programs typically make up for that. We're very conservative in terms of what we budget for growth in our special programs, and so that gives us a little bit of cushion there.
Okay, so even though that number is realistic, I guess, there are more conservative estimates
Correct,
in other
to make up
calculations.
for it.
Okay, all right.
And what is 1%?
1% is $4.5 million.
Yeah, exactly, which is
Yeah.
why I wanted to know, like, where we
Yeah.
stand on that conservative, optimistic,
Right.
realistic, because those are big
Mhm.
numbers for little percentages. And then, I'm sorry, did someone else have?
I was going to say something else, but go ahead.
Okay, on this, or, because I'm moving to different.
Just in general on the budget.
Okay, and then regarding the 12 million deficit and the 17 million projected for 25-26, when are we going to start talking about what we can cut?
Yeah, so we will start internally on that as soon as the school year starts. And they've actually, it's already begun, but we will begin working on that. We'll present it to the board probably in December. We'll start those conversations. So the plan right now is to bring forward like Ms. Garza said, a menu, basically, a list, and we'll put them in an order in which, you know, we're working with principals and our leadership, so that we'll present them in an order which, you know, we would recommend, or maybe in tiers that we would recommend. Certainly the board will have the discretion about how to move forward on that. I think there's going to be two considerations. You know, one is to find the cuts to get to that dollar amount. Mm-hmm. But the other one is that understanding is that they are going to be in legislative session. And hopefully by March, April, May, they will come to some type of agreement and our funding will increase and we will be made whole, and then we wouldn't have to do those cuts. But the danger in that is we have to start releasing allocations to campuses in February, March. We have job fairs, so they have to know who they can hire and who they can't. So when we're looking at that menu, I think there's the two things we're going to look at is one, how do we cut, and what order positions do we think we would move? But two may also be, what could we cut if we had to make a decision in February to cut something, or January to cut something? What's the easiest thing to add back in May if the money comes? So what I mean by that is if you start eliminating a lot of specialty positions where these people then leave us and go take jobs in other districts, and then in May we say, oh no, we got them back, they're gone.
Yeah.
Versus, let's say we adjust class sizes and adjust teacher counts, so we end up, you know, we say elementary campus, instead of having 5 second grade teachers, you're moving to 4. If in May we can go back and say, oh no, you have 5, it would be much easier to hire a second grade teacher in May versus maybe a specialty. So those are, we're going to have to calculate some risk involved through that process as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not just going to be as simple as let's get to 17 and end it, but get to 17, but then also do it in a way that we can recover quickly. In anticipation, something is going to come. It's just we don't know when. So but it's going to be a little tricky, but December, January is when those decisions are going to have to be made.
And can you tell me, is this a committee selecting these cuts? Like, where is this coming from? And what is the methodology to select these?
So we haven't started the process yet. So I think there'll be a multi-tiered step. You know, the first step is going to be just kind of actuarial as far as going through to determine what's a dollar amount that would be associated with something, right? So that'll be the job of Karen
we'll
and her
run
team.
scenarios, let's say on the allocations. If we increase the student to teacher ratio at the high schools to 22.5, what does that generate in savings? And then we would bring that to you and say this generates $2.5 million in savings. This is something we want to do. We'll run kind of different scenarios like that to come up with what the dollar amounts are that are attached to each of the items on the menu, and then bring those forth for you. Well, obviously we're going to involve the principals because this is going to impact them the most in terms of staffing, so we want to make sure that they have input in what we're doing and prioritize things based on what their needs are. But, you know, people is where it's going to have to be, because that's where we're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, that's our biggest cost line item. Yeah. So, Ms. Garza, you and your team are running this?
They will do the math portion, right? So they will then bring forward to our educator side of the house, you know, that formula. If we go to 22 to 5, if we go to 22.5 to 1, it would be this amount. If we go to 23 to 1, it'd be this amount. 23.5 on all the different levels. They will bring that math forward. From there, Dr. Medford and her team will go forward with the principals to discuss that. You know, for example, if you're an elementary principal, and you know, let's just say in general, you're going to lose 5 people off your campus. It'll be a conversation with them to say, do you want that spread out across grade levels? Are there certain grade levels that you say, you know, we can't raise it in our primary grades. You know, we can raise it in 3rd and 4th, but don't touch kinder. Okay, we have to have that conversation with principals. It could be a conversation about their instructional coaches. You know, where that's one of those positions we could look at and say, well, we're going to cut that, but then the principals may say, we absolutely can't. You will kill every teacher in my building if you do that, because they're carrying this load to keep it off my teachers. If you take them, we're going to hammer our teachers. So that's where we need the principal's feedback. And it will be different based on level, which is why, you know, each assistant soups will work with their level, because they're all formula staffed differently. But that's where we'll take their feedback, and all of that will be included. All of that will come to the board. You know, we'll share. It'll be workshop format, right, where we're sitting and we'll just be discussing, talking through it. And none of it will be fun conversation, because there's not an easy answer. Because we are thin, you know, we never added anything back from when we cut it before. So there's just, we don't have those positions that are easy, low-hanging fruit. So we're going to feel everything we do.
And one of the things we'll have to be mindful of is our special program areas. We have compliance spending requirements associated with them. So while we're having to cut costs, our student population is not changing. So for instance, state comp ed, we're required to spend 55% of that allotment directly on state comp ed. So if we take $8 million worth of coaches out of the budget, that's going to put us out of compliance in that area. So we're going to have to keep all those nuances in mind as we present the menu and make sure it's things that if we cut, we can stay in compliance with our spending requirements.
The 140 positions-ish we add, what was the number again?
147.
147. Is this based on like 3,000 or?
This is 1,500.
1,500. And on average, this is what we're adding each year?
No.
This is unusual because of the special ed additions
Not the
this year.
makeup, not the
Right.
makeup, but the
yes,
number of FTEs.
Based on 1,500 student growth, this is pretty average, yes.
Okay, and that equates to?
The reason I increased it to
11
12
million.
million next year is because we're opening 2 new campuses, so we'll have administrative staff related to those 2 new campuses that would be adds.
But what we don't see on this page that we normally would see, that would be natural growth, is we haven't added any support positions on a district level to support these people.
Yeah.
So, you know, like typically percentage-wise, you would see as the percentage of teachers grow, for example, we would add 3 or 4 positions here. Maybe some, you know, one gets added in HR, and we have a list, an order, right, of people that are lined up, departments that are short, lined up, and we might say, okay, well, this year we'll do 3. So what are the 3 highest priorities? You know, a few years ago it was a specialist in the fine arts department, because we only had 1 fine arts person for the whole district. So then we added the second one there, right? Or we may add, you know, another crisis counselor at some point. There's just different positions here. That doesn't exist. You know, none of those happened in this year's budget because it could not be accommodated.
No, I'm just trying to do some back of the envelope math, right? Because first and foremost, you know, we know that personnel is the highest cost position by far. Like, we're not going to make any kind of room for ourselves in our budget if we don't touch that.
Right.
And so first and foremost, I want to make sure that people's jobs are secure. So I wanted to know, like, on average, how many, you know, FTEs are we adding, and what could that amount be?
Right.
So that's why I asked about that.
Yes.
And maybe this is where you're headed with it, but I do feel like, and it'll be important that we do this in December, January. Based on the way that we grow, we should be able to come out even in January and tell our staff everyone will have a job. You may not have the job you have today, but we should be able to tell everybody you will have a job, because the number of positions that we would need to reduce is less than the typical number that we add in a given year.
Yeah.
So, you know, to roughly, Karen, what's like 17 million, just equate that to number of teachers simply.
Oh, gosh.
Like 200?
Somebody do the math.
It's about 200. I think it's
About
about
200.
200. I think it's about 200.
About 200. I mean, I did it when
What is it? What do we figure? 70?
17.
What do we
We
typically?
use 75,000
Yeah.
with benefits and everything.
With fringe and stuff.
Yes. Health insurance costs.
Yeah.
225.
225.
You know what? I was this close to saying 225, because I'm not kidding.
This is recorded. We're gonna go back and see.
Well, because that's what it was a couple
But
of
yeah,
years
so,
ago. and it was 225.
but we will hire this year, not 1,000 probably. So there is room, but that will be an important moment because it's going to get very uncomfortable for all of our staff when we start having this level of conversation. So it will be important that we come out, send them a letter, do a video, whatever, to say you will have a job.
Well,
You have a job, but that job may be different.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're also going to need to understand this inside and out. Like, finance is going to be a number one priority.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Finance is going to be a number one priority
can't
for this
understand
school
numbers.
district.
Good luck.
Yeah, you have to
And
understand.
one
this
of the
stuff.
things to consider is what we talked about previously with those disaster pennies. So if we decide early on that we want to utilize 2 of those pennies early on, before we even start this discussion about cutting 17 million out of our budget, that would generate $24 million for us.
We could
So
end the discussion.
we could
That end the
potentially
discussion.
move into that discussion without,
We build a cliff,
well,
too.
we just postpone the cutting one
But
more
yes,
year,
but
and then
yes.
if
We just
funding
kick it down the
comes.
road.
Right,
but
but if,
anticipating that the state will fund us.
Everyone also
and-
anticipated
no
that
doubt.
this year.
Agreed,
So
but
I
yes,
would-
it could.
For
but
sure, the state let us down.
let's just say they decide to wait until May to release funding to us, and we decide early on that we want to take the 2 pennies, we've got 24 million built in. We would not have to go through the pain of cutting and hiring and rehiring teachers. We would just get that money in May that would essentially offset the 2 pennies that we just, it's an idea. I just
Yeah, it's going to be
want
a
to put it out there.
strategic decision that'll have to be
Yes.
made.
Yeah. Okay. And then on the, sorry, if anyone else had questions. On the general fund.
Yes.
Percentage. At 19%, yeah. What,
That's thin.
yeah,
It's just
what,
thin.
what kind of impact does this have? Specifically on, our bonds?
Well, when we meet with our bond rating agencies, as long as we have a plan in place, and they know that this is happening statewide, so this is not news to them in terms of districts, adopting deficit budgets. This is a statewide issue. As long as we have a plan in place and we know that we're going to get ourselves back into that 20% range, they will be fine.
But it also has to do with when payments come in as well. We dip into that from time to time because the state
Yes.
is late on payments. So that could be even more than 19%
But
of a
we're,
snapshot.
I mean, we've got.
I'm just talking about a snapshot.
Yeah.
I think for the discussions, it would be also important to have that validation from our, what is his name?
John Roebuck?
John
Yeah,
Roebuck.
Roebuck,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Ms. Roebuck, to also have that validation for wherever we're going to end up, because I would suspect that 19.7 is the high end, right? When we start talking about our menu and what we're prepared to do and what we're not prepared to do.
Right, but if our budget is going to be decreased by $17 million.
We don't add anything to it,
Our
though.
denominator goes down,
Yeah.
so we're dividing by a smaller number. So that percentage of 19.7 will improve. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it'll get better.
But you
So
you won't build up your general fund
No.
again.
It'll
Yeah.
just help us to get back over that 20%.
It's a big number
Yeah.
to cut.
Yeah.
So getting back to a 0 is also a enormous feat to do.
Sure.
And if we don't, then that number goes down.
Which goes, back to that conversation about the disaster pennies, if that becomes an option.
Yeah.
Those funds, you wouldn't want to apply those to salaries or your raises, because it's not going to continue. It's 1 year, but it could certainly be used to fix this as well. So let's say just, 2 pennies, 24.
24 million.
So let's just say if the board said we're going to do 2 pennies, if compression's looking like it's going to compress anyway, we could hold our tax rate the same and access 2 golden pennies. We're going to take 17 million of that to balance the budget.
Disaster pennies, right?
Yeah, for 1 year,
Not
yes,
golden.
for 1 year. And then we're going to take the other 7 million, we're going to put it into the fund balance to make it whole. That's got it. You could absolutely, that'll be, it's just a lot of things that we'll just have to discuss and figure out later.
But then, I mean, those disaster pennies are done.
One time.
Like, it's
That's
a
it.
one-time
One
use,
time.
so then you go to the next year, right? You haven't given any increases.
Right. Well, that itself.
We would hope
You
by that
lose the
time.
money again.
We would
So
hope
I
by
just-
that time the
I don't
state.
wanna
State's
give
got us, at some
anyone-
point, the state is going to
Do
have,
they?
yes. Or we're going to be absorbing about 4 school districts in our next door to us because they're going to go out of business.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the whole plan, to be honest.
The other issue that the board will have to consider is it's 17 million to make whole. But if the board said, well, but we want to give a 3% raise. So whoever's still employed here, we're going to do a 3% raise. So then we would go, then from cutting 225 positions, we'd be cutting 450 positions to give enough money left over to give a 3% raise to everyone, right? So that's, once again, all things that we would just have to work through because it's just it's a strategy and there's not an easy answer to any of these things, but this is why Karen and I, we think about it, talk about it, cuss
Lay
and
awake at
discuss
night.
often. And
And then one last question in line. Can you talk about the Vader, a Vader possibility?
If we're going to go down that road, we have to start early. We have to have an efficiency audit by, I believe, the 5th of July. And then there's
What?
certain processes that have to be in place.
Yeah, okay, so the earliest it could go up is November?
Correct.
next
Okay.
November.
November.
2025.
Yes. Yep.
Not this year.
Now, the disaster pennies would allow you to access those 2 pennies.
Without a Vader.
If those became an option, you could, let's say you decided to access, you could access all 3, could.
We could.
But let's just say you chose to access 2 through the disaster penny, and then you decided to do a Vader in November of 25, then those 2 pennies could be perpetual instead of 1 year, right? You'd have them the 1 year from the disaster, then if the voters approve them in November, then you would have them the following year and perpetually as well.
Well, it would actually be November of 26, because the Vader would pertain to the year
Oh,
that
yes.
you're.
Right.
So we could postpone the Vader. If we wanted to take the disaster pennies for 1 year and then keep them for perpetuity, we could go for Vader in the fall of 20.
They have to be in
6.
November though, right?
They always have to be in November, yes.
Can you explain the accessing the disaster pennies again? I know it's not a Vader, so how do we access them then?
It just by board
Just a
vote,
board-
the
okay.
resolution has to read a certain way.
Okay.
There's some information we have to send to TEA that actually, tells them about the disaster, which they're well aware, but we'd have to
Okay.
provide some documentation to them in terms of why and justify why we're taking the pennies, but
Great.
And one of the things, in that was in some of the legislations in the last legislative session was giving local school boards the ability to access an additional golden penny without a Vader. So that's another thing that could come in the future legislative session as well. They could give you that option to access that without having to go through
Just
a
a
Vader.
board approved?
Correct, just a board approved.
Penny?
Yes. So that could be an option. And
That'd be great.
the benefit for us is because the rate in which we grow, like this year, the voters said we could raise our tax rate by 2 cents. We're going to lower it by a cent and a half. Next year, we'll lower it again. So there's sometimes you can access these pennies,
Yeah.
and
Without a
it doesn't
true
cause
impact.
an increase. There's an impact, but there's not an increase.
Not an increase.
Right. There's still an impact because
Sure.
you didn't lower it as much as you could.
Right.
But it's just a.
And to be clear, these disaster pennies we would access because of the disaster that just happened or
Burl.
the disaster of funding?
No.
Because to be clear, we
we
talked
have to-
about, we had costs of 1 million-ish, right? We expect from this, but yet accessing these disaster pennies would net us 24 million. So
Is it
the
specific to the
deficit-
storm? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
if
the
there is
versus like-
if there is a federally declared disaster in your county, which there is,
Okay.
you can access them the tax year following the year in which the disaster occurred. So that's why we have to wait until next year to access them.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I'm just want to be clear that this is not a result
It's
of what just happened.
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, that there's not another one.
Yeah,
And we
that's
pick the larger one at that point.
Yeah,
right?
but what,
Exactly.
it's just once it's triggered, it's not, we don't have to justify dollar for dollar how the money, it's just, once it's
Yeah.
triggered, it allows you to act, it gives you the ability to access it at your choice, where right now you don't have that ability.
And once you access it, you can't access it for how long?
Exactly.
Like
if
ever?
there's another disaster,
You can do
we
it every
could do it
year.
again
Mhm.
the
Per
following
year,
year,
or-
which
Yes.
we
Well, not
hope
on the
there's
same
not,
disaster,
Per year.
but a different one.
It'd have to be a different one.
disaster.
Per year,
Correct.
that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way our
Per
weather's
disaster.
going, I don't know, we might.
So you could have multiple disasters per year, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
You could, yeah.
Hopefully that's not us. Just
Yeah.
gonna-
I'll pass
I
on
don't
that,
think
just
we're
for the
asking.
record, I'll say I pass on that.
Understand, make sure it's
Yeah.
totally clear, but
Yeah.
we'll knock on some wood just
Yeah.
to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Exactly. All right.
All right, very
Thank you, Ms.
good.
Garza.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Ms.
Garza.
Garza.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
Okay, item B, consider and adopt resolution designating and authorizing the Montgomery County Tax Assessor Collector to collect the non-new revenue tax rate, the voter approval, tax rate, and other truth in taxation requirements for Conroe ISD.
All right, once again, good evening, President Hewitt, members of the board, and Dr. Nall. We will soon be entering truth in taxation season, as certified values should be here within the next 10 days. This item is somewhat of a housekeeping item. The tax code now requires that we officially designate the person that calculates our truth in taxation calculations as the district. This is not a change in practice. Tammy McCray, our tax assessor collector, has been doing this for many, many years. She is a subject matter expert in this area, and in terms of transparency, it gives us another level of review from someone outside the district to perform these calculations. They are included as an addendum to the budget that we will ask you to adopt. So this is not a change in anything we are doing. We just now officially have to name the person that is doing the calculations. So I'm asking you this evening to approve this resolution.
Okay. We have a motion. Do
Second.
we have a second? Any questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Garza. And now, our beautiful
We'll
financial
keep this short.
reports.
All right, it's my pleasure to present the financial statements as of June 30th. This is our balance sheet, shows the district's assets, liabilities, and fund balance. In the general fund, our total assets 291.2 million, debt service 78.7 million, child nutrition 15.4 million, and self-funded insurance just over 13 million in assets. This is our income statement. In the general fund, year-to-date revenue 554 million, total expenditures of 491.3 million. It's our 2023 bond referendum update. Total funds encumbered and expended life to date of the bond 274.6 million, remaining 1.7 million estimated to complete. Our self-funded insurance, we have seen the summer activity uptick. We had a loss for the month of June of 631,000. We are still running a surplus for the year of 1.6 million. So if we can hang on for the next 2 months to break even for the year, that would be a win. So averaging year to date 167,000 per month surplus. Our investments as of June 30th, par value 996.5 million. The pools are yielding 5.45. Our combined portfolio is at 5.37, and then the yield of the 90-day T-bill, which is our benchmark, is at 5.2.
All right. Any questions? All right, very good. Thank you, Ms. Garza. Appreciate you. Okay, moving on to item 10A, consider and adopt local board policy, BBD, board members training and orientation, BBFA ethics, conflict of interest disclosure, CKC, safety program risk management, emergency plan, CKEA, security personnel, commission peace officers, taking a deep breath, CQC, technology resources, equipment, DCE, employment practices, other types of contracts, DEC, compensation and benefits, leaves of absences, and EH instructional agreements, homebound instruction. Ms. Gladys.
Thank you, President Hewitt. Last month, you saw the update 123. These are the local policies that were included in that update that we're asking the board to adopt. That update was primarily legal policies prompted by regulations adopted by various state agencies. And the changes to the local policies are really all prompted by similar changes to regulations, and it's very benign and rather dull. And so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them about any particular policy.
Any questions? All right, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion show by uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Very good. All right, item B, I've had a request to remove that item for tonight. So that will move us to the executive session.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering why it was removed from today's agenda. Why the EFA, I was prepared to discuss and make some changes to it. I'm just wondering, is it postponed to the next meeting, or is it just?
I don't know. The board member that put it on there has requested that it be removed, very similar to other board members have put things on items and asked them to be removed, so I was just honoring that.
Okay.
I removed an item though, and I put it on, I said that I was going to be putting it on for the next meeting, so I was just curious, is it going to be on for the next meeting, or?
I haven't made the agenda for next month, so I have no idea.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
any board item can request an item, so
Yeah.
if you want to request it for next month, anybody could.
Yeah.
If it'd be fine.
It was just sort of an abrupt announcement. I was curious what the plan was.
I've had 3 other board members do the exact same thing day of. So it's not out of the ordinary. It just happens. All right, the board will go into closed session pursuant to section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Any action, vote, or decision of the board with regard to any matters discussed in closed session will be made when the board returns to open session. The time is 9:20. The board's now in open session at 9:31. Our next agenda item, action on executive session items. We have none. Take requests from trustees regarding future board agenda items. Anybody have any suggestions?
Yeah. So I would also like to just add to my request that the EFA and EFB be brought back next meeting.
All right. That'll be yours?
Yeah.
Next month? Okay.
And I'm wondering if we should take the time. Trustee Odenweiler at one point had wanted to, or had talked about bringing an agenda item about setting legislative priorities. Seems like a good thing to do.
We can do that.
Are you going to bring that back, or should I just bring it?
Sorry about that. I'd love to have it come back up, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We can add those two items to next month.
In fact, I'd already started talking with Ms. Gladys about that and Dr. Knoll, so.
All right. Very good.
Thanks.
Anything else? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There we go. Motion to adjourn and second?
Second.
All right. We're adjourned. Thank you.